This is Empty the Bench with Tom Albano.
And I know there's a report recently where Luka's basically waving off the possible trade request rumors saying, I'm very happy here in Dallas. I don't know how you can be. This was an absolutely wasted season for the Mavericks, an absolute collapse. This was an absolutely wasted season on Luka Doncic.
Nick Morgasen.
And these fans pay a lot of money for these tickets, and they're not getting to see the stars that they're paying to see. Load management is going to happen, and you know what the players are going to say about this rule? Fuck you, Adam Silver. We don't care. Fine, take the awards away. We're still going to make our millions of dollars. We don't care.
Empty the Bench starts now.
Stay off the weed. Duh.
All right, everybody, I'm back. I have a lot of energy to get off my chest. Welcome to episode 181 of Empty the Bench on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. That's Johnny Montalbano again. I'm back, Nick Morgasen. It's been a long couple weeks.
I see what you did there. Look what day it is today. It's 420. I see what you did there.
Happy 420 day, everybody. And no, we don't indulge on this show.
No, absolutely.
But I needed to do that once because I knew I was never going to get to do that again. So, you get it.
It's bad. I'm so confused. It's second straight Thursday that I'm on. It's good to be on filling in for Tom today, who did well filling in for me on Game On the last 2 weeks. I do want to say, Nick, great to have you back. Obviously, we are thinking of you. Everybody here at the Empty the Bench Podcast Network is thinking of you. We missed you last week. It was hard to hold down the fight because I'm back at it again. So it's good to have you back. And obviously, our thoughts and prayers are with you and your family. I know it's been a difficult week for you, but it's good to have you back.
No, I appreciate that. In case people didn't know, my grandfather passed away like a week ago now. I can't believe it's been a week. But yeah, I appreciate everybody. Tom doing all the hard work, you filling in, Hank doing a lot of stuff. So good to be back. Good to be able to do a show. Make sure you follow us on social media as well at ETB Sports, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Make sure you follow us across the Empty the Bench Network at ETB Network, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com/ETB Network. Also, make sure you follow us across our audio platforms. Yes, I have to get used to saying that as well. On your favorite podcast platform, Spotify, iHeart, Odyssey, Stitcher, Google, wherever you listen to your podcast. ETBpodcast.com. Bunch of blogs have gone up as well. Hank's been busy in the NHL playoffs and some other, I think he did a Knicks history blog also. We can break down Knicks a little bit later in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But now that we got all that stuff out of the way, a lot to get into this week. And like I told Johnny before I got on here, I have a lot of energy. I was off. I missed a show. And there is a lot to get into. So a lot of NFL headlines. And like you've said, Johnny, many times, the NFL now seems to be a 24/7, 365 sports news hub. So,
yeah.
So we'll get into the Jalen Hurts large contract, a little over 51 AAV value on that contract. I think it's the largest deal in NFL history concurrently until the Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert contracts come to fruition. How does this affect Lamar Jackson? We'll get into that whole situation. The Dan Snyder situation, supposedly agreeing to sell the Commanders to the Josh Harris group. But hold on a second. We might have more news on that. So there could be a $7 billion offer on the table for the Commanders. Just think about that. Also, we'll get into the Saquon Barkley news, not signing his franchise tender. I'm not really surprised. I'm not a Giant fan. You are. But I know I'm not 100% surprised by that. Also, Dexter Lawrence now out. Are the Giants falling apart before the season has even begun? We'll get into all that. Also, NFL teams calling the 49ers about Trey Lance. I'm really not shocked. like his time is basically done there. Brock Purdy, Mr. What is the term they go by him again? Mr. Unreliable?
Mr. Irrelevant.
Or irrelevant.
Turned relevant.
Turned relevant. Actually, he's not unreliable anymore. He pretty much won. If he's not hurt, they're probably in the Super Bowl. But we'll get into all that. Also, we'll get into all the NBA playoffs. I was telling Johnny before the show that I have a whole different opinion about Draymond Green. Whole different opinion. People are probably not going to like what I have to say. And if you watched NBA on TNT, I kind of agree with Shaq with a lot of what he said in that situation. So we'll break that all down. We'll also, you guys went in depth on the Mavericks situation. I have called Mark Cuban to the carpet many times. We'll break that down even more. The fine has officially come out. So again, who cares? I think you said it last week, Johnny, or Tom said it. It's only money to Mark Cuban. Who cares? So who really cares about that? Also, John Morant filing a countersuit against a teenager, suing him. Maybe you should worry about on the court matters and stop worrying about off the court.
Got to be healthy.
Yeah, well, that too. Also, unfortunately, domestic violence has come back into the NBA. But apparently the NBA thinks good behavior is on the table, so they only give him a certain player 1/3 of the games they're really supposed to serve. We'll get into the in-season tournament, which you and I were laughing about before. We'll break down some MLB stuff, and that's pretty much it. So, all right, let's get into it. We'll start with the NFL. The Jalen Hurts contract is what everybody is talking about right now. 5 years, $255 million, $179 million guaranteed. Richest contract as of right now in the NFL. What were your thoughts originally when you saw this?
So two things went through my mind. One, I think this was inevitable because if you were the Eagles, you needed to make sure that you were going to lock this guy up, number one. So it was inevitable, number one. And number two, okay, highest paid contract in league history for now, until we get to Joe Burrow and just that's exactly where my mind went right after this. And I don't want to gloss over Hurts because what he did last year was excellent. And, the Eagles needed him as much as he needs the Eagles. But of course, now the conversation turns to Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, because those are the next guys that are going to be locked up for sure. And we were talking about when Deshaun Watson got his fully guaranteed contract, and these guys and even goes back to like Kyler Murray last offseason with the $45 million plus annual average salary. If these guys are getting all this money, then what are the likes of Hurts, the likes of Joe Burrow, and the likes of Justin Herbert going to be getting? And we were going to be talking about $50+ million per year. So not really a surprise. Now, for Hurts, he's a very interesting guy, Nick, because, he's a guy that relies a lot on his legs, and we've seen a lot of quarterbacks who do that. Sometimes don't even last more than 5 years, or if they do, they've got to change up their style of play. But it'll be interesting to see what they do going into the season, because now you're talking about them losing some coordinators, some defensive coaches have changed, some defensive players have left. One of his better running backs in Miles Sanders is no longer there. He's now in Carolina. So Hurts is going to be with a little bit of a different team. For the most part, the same team, though, that got to the Super Bowl last year. But to me, not really a surprise, because from where he came from to now, I mean, it's definitely the right and the move that I think needed to be made from Philadelphia's side.
I mean, the one problem you're going to run into, and we see this with large contracts, we saw it with Aaron Rodgers. Now we're seeing it with Jalen Hurts. And by the way, I can't remember the GM, Howie Roseman.
Roseman. Yep.
By the way, I have to give him a lot of credit. Did you see the salary cap hits that he managed to get out of the first couple of years of that contract?
Well, that's also something when you talk about when you look at these massive deals, the two numbers you have to look at are the guaranteed money, which in this case is $179 million, and the cap hits. They were not that bad, if I remember correctly, right?
I think the first year was like $6 million. The second year was like 16. I heard a stat yesterday that for for the 4 years, first 4 of the 5 years, his cap number is not in the top 10.
Which is quite amazing if that's the case.
Like, think about that. Now, that obviously means they backloaded everything, which is normal because that allows you to have that flexibility, that space to sign the guys that they need. But that's just an incredible statistic that his cap number is not in the top 10. And they were comparing it to Daniel Jones. I hate to do this, but with Daniel Jones, that his number is 42 flat the next 2 years. You have no room there.
Well, I think that with the Daniel Jones thing, though, his contract is not really about his length. It's really more of a short-term thing because it's more like 2 years, I think, with Jones. But if you're the Giants and you have that system that Jones can be successful in, then you could live with that. I don't think the Giants wanted to go through having to go find another quarterback in a couple of years and start up this process all over again. I'm sure we're going to get to the Giants when we talk about Saquon and Lawrence in a little bit, but that's where you have to give Howie Roseman a lot of credit. And look, I mean, you can make the case until Joe Shane came over to the Giants that the Eagles were the best run team in the NFC East. So, I mean, he definitely knows what he's doing there. I mean, he got the team to the Super Bowl. It's going to be interesting because now you got a couple of different switches there in Philadelphia. But to me, I think they're still the best team in that division here in late April. So, and things like this work. And yeah, not having a dead cap situation. When you see the dead cap, Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson, and he's like, oh, you can get rid of him with Hurts. You get rid of him. It's not that much of a big deal. Of course, you're not going to do it because you got the fully guaranteed, a lot of money guaranteed. But yeah, I mean, that's what great GMs do, and that's how our organizations are successful for a long period of time.
Right, and just I guess the reputation would be a Super Bowl or bust again for the Eagles at this point. They really need to get back there. I mean, you got your quarterback. Now you got to build around that quarterback. They still have one of the best defenses in the NFL if they can stay healthy. Mm-hmm. They got A.J. Brown, which, by the way, I think was the steal of a lifetime of trades with the Titans. I'm sure the Titans are probably kicking themselves right now, but
it cost the Titans GM his job pretty much during the season.
You're right. But now they're talking about trading Derrick Henry. I mean, so that team's in blow-up mode. I mean, their quarterback right now is either Malik Willis or Ryan Tannehill. Yeah. So did Jalen Hurts deserve this deal? Yes. He definitely deserved the deal. A lot of people were saying that you couldn't let Jalen Hurts go into the last year of his contract without a deal. Can you imagine if he hit the open market after this coming season, what the numbers would have been?
Yeah.
Maybe it would have been nuts.
Talking about 55 to 60.
I'm afraid to see what the Herbert numbers and the why am I forgetting
Joe Burrow
Burrow numbers are going to be. I mean, if Hurts, but you have to remember one thing. Like you said before, the average annual value of this deal makes it look a lot bigger than it actually is. Mm-hmm. So he got 51 a year. Okay, but it's over 5 years. He was going to get paid, and that's why guys like Daniel Jones got $42 million a year, because these numbers are so convoluted and blown up that was the market number. Is Daniel Jones worth $42 million? I don't think so. I don't think he's worth that money.
Not to a lot of teams, he's not. No, I when the Jones thing happened, I said that if he went to any other team, I don't think he would have had as much success as he would have had in the Giants system. I think the way the Giants are built is going to allow him to be successful.
I still think that, and Tom had pushed back on me on this when I brought it up probably a month ago. I said that the Giants should go and trade for DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, and his name's been floated around the last couple of weeks for sure. I guess the question mark would be, though, was what would you be giving up to get him? And I think with the Giants, I think one of the reasons why you saw them go out there and get Darren Waller from Vegas was because he actually, as a tight end, was probably a better option receiving the ball than any of the other guys that are out there. And I'm saying that even with OBJ and the veteran guys who are out there. I always wanted DJ Chark, and he went to Carolina, which I love that move for Carolina. I love what they've done. Darren Waller, who the only issue with him the last couple of years has been his health. I think as good as he's one of the better tight ends in football. He can catch the ball. He can block. I mean, it was a great move for the Giants if he stays healthy. So I think in that regard, they did better with that, and they didn't really have to give up a lot for him. DeAndre Hopkins, to me, I know he's coming off the drug suspension last year, but I just don't really think he's that great of a fit, because I don't know if he's really that kind of playmaking guy that he was before, Nick. And that's the thing. The Giants need a playmaking guy, but I don't think that guy is out there.
I think you're right for the most part. I think DeAndre Hopkins needs a change of scenery. Arizona is a mess. Kyler Murray making what, close to 46, 47 a year.
Yeah, it's like 45 or so on average. And we don't even know if he's going to be ready to start the year because he tore his ACL so late last year. That's why, we're a week away from the draft, and there's a lot of talk about what they're going to do with that third pick. Are they going to keep it or are they going to trade it? There was a report that as many as 6 teams were looking up to trade up. Now, is that more of them wanting to trade up or Arizona wanting to trade down?
I think they want to trade down because they don't need a quarterback. I mean, they do, but they don't. They're going to go and grab someone off the scrap heap until Kyler Murray is ready to play. But I don't know. By the way, the Arizona Cardinals are suckers. They fed in. They should have let Kyler Murray sit out there and people say, "Oh, you're being a hypocrite." No, I'm not being a hypocrite. Kyler Murray's not worth $46 million. He has not proved he's not that he's worth $46 million. First of all, he can't see over the offensive line. That should have been a red flag to begin with. So
that's where I think Bryce Young. I mean, that's kind of like my comparison with Bryce Young is his height.
Right. And it is what it is. But since you brought up the Giants, we'll go there next. So Dexter Lawrence joins Saquon Barkley. We all saw this last week or a couple of weeks ago now, that Saquon Barkley basically said, "I refuse to sign my franchise tender." I could have told you that was going to happen. Everyone thought that Saquon Barkley was going to step in like a soldier and just play. He wants to be paid. But at the same time, and I'm sure you and I could see similarities on this, running back position is the hardest position to pay.
Yeah.
You can't trust it. What I think they said the average career for a running back is 3 years. How can you trust it? And he's been hurt.
That's why I said I think the way the Giants handled both Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley was perfect. I think they handled it the right way. They paid Jones and they gave Barkley the franchise tag. Because, like you said, running backs, 2 years ago when Barkley missed the majority of the time and the Giants were going through the torturous season, the Giants' best player was their backup guy. It was Devontae Booker. And the Giants were in such salary cap hell last offseason that they couldn't even bring him back for $3 million a year. And last year, and I go back to the game in London they played against the Packers, when Barkley hurt his shoulder and had to go out for a couple of plays, you had guys like Matt Breida and Bridewell step in. Now, I'm not saying they're explosive like Barkley. I mean, they're not that, but they can give you the kind of runs that you need for Daniel Jones to be successful. So really, to me, Barkley's doesn't really have a lot of leverage in this spot. And if he doesn't want to hold out, Giants could go trade him and get picks for him, because there are teams that are desperate enough for Saquon Barkley that would make that move.
Right.
I'm seeing there's another team that plays in New York that I think could definitely make a play for Barkley. I think technically it's still your team, not your team, but the other team that plays in New York that I think would make a move for him.
That would be interesting if the Bills actually got in on that, considering their running back situation is kind of a hell right now. Everything else they got their receivers, they have their quarterback, obviously. They have the defensive pieces for the most part that they need. They need a running back. Now, I don't know if Saquon can stay healthy. And did Saquon have a good year? No doubt. He had a good year. But he's been hurt 2 years before that. So if I'm the Giants, how the heck do I pay him long-term money or large money? Forget long-term. How do I pay him large money at this point in time? If he's going to go out and get hurt again, he's one of those guys where he's never going to be 100% healthy.
Yeah, you can't do it. Now, I know the Giants had a lot of cap space going into this offseason, but you can't do it. Look, you've been spending that money in needs. They still need some help on the offensive line. They need help with a linebacker. So there are plenty of positions where they needed to go in that position to go there. They could use that money for.
And like I said, they already sunk $42 million in the salary cap at Daniel Jones. I mean, so
heck, Barkley wants to leave. I'll tell you right now, if he's still out there, I go make a call for Zeke and bring him in on a 5-year contract,
yeesh.
A $5 million contract. I'm sorry.
Either way, it sounds kind of ugly anyway.
Right? I mean, but that's the kind of thing. I could go get a veteran guy for a few $1 million per year and still give me enough production not Saquon production, but just enough production. So really, I mean, the Giants hold all the cards with Saquon. Barkley's not in a position of strength here if he's holding out.
Well, now, in his mind,
now Dexter Lawrence, I think, is another spot, but go ahead.
I was just going to say, in his mind, he's probably thinking, "Oh, I had a big year, I should be paid." No. You've been hurt the last 2 years. They're going to hold that, and also you have to look at the strength of position. I mean, there are so many running backs out there that they could go get someone for half the price that you played for last year.
Exactly, and look, it's not the same thing, but we're almost talking the same thing kind of about with Lamar Jackson, where Lamar's saying, well, look at my numbers before. But if you're the Ravens, yeah, those numbers before were great, but you also have been hurt the last 2 years and missed like 6 games at least each of the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So I mean, both can be. I mean, you can play both sides and be understandable, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it's the Giants that hold the cards here. Barkley's not really in a position of strength here when it comes when he's in his spot.
I mean, the one thing I will say is I still don't like the franchise tag nonsense. I'm going to steal a line from you. In what other sport do you see where teams have a mandatory way to force a player to stay in your organization? You don't have that.
Yeah, I don't think you really don't in any other sport.
So I'm not a fan of the franchise tag. I've said that for a long time.
I guess you could say baseball thing, maybe, where if he doesn't stay on your team, then he goes back to the other original team. I mean, that could be the only other comparison, really.
Well, I guess the only thing in baseball would be arbitration, but that's for a younger player.
Yeah.
Where if you don't agree, they just bring you back on arbitration.
Yeah, that would be it.
But that's for a young player. We're talking about in general. You could franchise anybody, but I think the rule is you can technically only franchise someone 2 times in a row, right?
Yeah, that is correct.
So I guess that if he were to be franchised this year, and what, it's the top 5 positions by average determines the franchise tag value. So,
yeah. And I think for $0.7 million, I mean, the running back position is not a highly paid position because of what you've been saying. You know, and I even say, like, go back to last year for 1 second. Jonathan Taylor from the Colts had a great rookie year. Last year, he had so many ankle woes that it slowed down his season last year.
Like I said, the running back position is hell by fire. Where basically you have to hope that if you have a good running back, that they stay healthy. They're the ones taking the most damage running through the middle of the defensive line. I mean,
that's why when the Giants in the 2 Super Bowl victories back in 42 and 46, monster there at running back with Brandon Jacobs, Derek Ward, and Ahmad Bradshaw. I mean, you could run 3 guys and be effective. It's a little different now, but definitely, I mean, if you had multiple guys, that's why, like, I mean, if I had Barkley, Breida, and Bridewell with the Giants, or if I don't keep Barkley, I go out and get another veteran guy. I mean, that's enough to be successful.
Right. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, and then you had Dexter Lawrence, who's also not signing his tag. What was it, a franchise tag also? Or
that's a little. See, Dexter Lawrence thing is a little bit different because I think he's very valuable and very important to that defensive line. So that could be something that's a little bit different. I will say, just to wrap this up, though, I'm confident that Joe Schoen and Brian Dable are going to do the right thing. I mean, this is definitely feeling a little bit different when you have those guys in charge versus the Dave Gettleman and whatever head coach insert you want to put in there. I mean, you have different people running the organization, and let's not forget how successful the Giants were in the last year's draft, and how those guys like Kayvon Thibodeau, Wan'Dale Robinson, hopefully he could be healthy for a full year. How those guys made an impact in their first year. When you look at, and then you look at Gettleman's guys. I mean, eventually, you know, Daniel Jones is working his way in with the right system, but you know, he didn't really hit a lot of home runs, and it looks more like that the Schoen and Dable era has been off to a good start.
I mean, there is a name now for what went on in that disastrous time in New York, the Dave Gettleman experience. Yes. I mean, that's how it's going to be remembered for in history. But I just want to say one thing, since we're talking about franchise tags. The whole thing with Lamar, I forgot to mention it before when we were talking about Jalen Hurts, that's a mess. You want to talk about the Saquon Barkley franchise tag being a mess. The Lamar situation is even more of a mess, and he's probably screaming that Jalen Hurts got one of the biggest contracts in NFL history.
Yeah, and it's quite funny because I'm going to try and pull this up here, but there was a post from somebody. I'm trying to see where it is here, because
What was it
Okay,
on
so this
exactly?
was from a Ravens reporter, Jamison Hensley. He tweeted this out earlier in the week. The 5-year contract extension that Jalen Hurts signed with the Eagles looked very hard turned down in September, which was reported by Schefter and Mortensen.
Wait, what?
Hurts got 255, 179 guaranteed, and Lamar was offered 250 million, 175 guaranteed. See the difference, but see here's the difference with that. Lamar wants a fully guaranteed contract. See,
He's not going to get it, though.
I agree with you. The Lamar Jackson contract, the Deshaun Watson contract has thrown this off insanely to the point like we're going to talk about the $55 million with Burrow and Justin Herbert when this comes up.
I understand. And if you heard it in the last intro of the show that I think you guys did, or it might have been the one before, I say the Deshaun Watson contract is an outlier. I've said this a million times that the Deshaun Watson contract is an outlier. People refuse to understand that. And Lamar is refusing to understand it.
We get it. It's the players that don't get it, though.
No, because Lamar thinks he should be the highest paid player in the league, which, by the way, if he remembered the last 2 seasons, he got hurt pretty badly.
Yeah, you got to stay on the field.
He's not worth 250 or 300. Well, what was it? 300 million guaranteed that Deshaun got. He's not worth it.
And what do you think teams think about? Because there have been 6 teams that have turned down 6 or 7 teams that turned down the opportunity to sign him, trade for him, or sign him. I mean, there's really only one other team I could think about that's out there right now that would take a move on him, and that'd be Indy. But they're not going to do that. They're going to take a QB at 4. They just got to hope that there aren't going to be 3 quarterbacks taken before they get to 4, before they get to their pick on next Thursday.
But it's just nuts. I mean, he's so delusional in no man's land, thinking that he's worth $300 million when he's not healthy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, his numbers are great, but you can't be missing a good chunk of the last 2 years and think that you're going to be worth that much money.
I mean, it makes sense for the episode, but this is Lamar Jackson right now.
Stay off the weed.
I mean, he's on something because one, he has no agent right now. He's negotiating on his own behalf, which that's always a mistake when a player negotiates on their own behalf.
That's not helping matters, that's for sure.
And have you look, I'm listening around right now. How many teams have called? Let me do the math. 0.
I mean, we're going to probably get to this, but if the Jets situation with Aaron Rodgers, that could be the only other spot that we see here. And, a week to go until the draft and the trade has not happened yet. That would be the only other spot right now because the Jets have put themselves in that position where they're going to have to get somebody.
Right.
With who do you got? Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle.
With Tim Boyle. All probably on the recommendation of Aaron Rodgers, by the way.
Absolutely, yep.
But this whole thing is insane. The franchise tags, I agree, are totally against the players. It's not right. But at the same time, Lamar's not going to... First of all, they're never going to agree. They're going to agree to disagree on every contract offer that's put out there. Lamar is going to fight. And by the way, while they were fighting, the Ravens went out and signed Odell Beckham Jr. on top of that. So, and by the way, I love how Odell came out during the press conference and said, I didn't talk to Lamar. Shut up. Why would you sign there?
Because the only other thing could be because they offered him $18 million and nobody else was willing to go that much.
They offered him $18 million with 15 guaranteed. Okay, fine. So
guaranteed. I think the Jets were only wanting to go about half that amount, which smartly for them, they did not get him.
I was so glad they didn't go down that route. Can you imagine Aaron Rodgers and Odell Beckham Jr. on the same team?
And not even to mention the fact that you would be killing your development of your right now your number 1 wide receiver. Because Odell is going to complain that he wants to be the number 1 guy.
Probably.
That would have been a mess. So that's something that a good move that did not happen for the Jets.
Thank God. I mean,
I know it's been quite the offseason there, and still got a ways to go. So we'll see.
I don't know. We'll figure that out. But speaking of turmoil, let's talk about the Commanders. So Dan Snyder agrees, and the reason for people who are not watching this on YouTube, I'm air quoting when I say agree, because who the hell knows if this is an agreement or not at this point. So he agrees to sell the Washington Commanders to the group led by Josh Harris. And apparently Steve Apostolopoulos, say that name a million times fast, and Brian Davis reportedly are still in the mix. Can you make heads or tails of this? Because I can't.
Well, so when this broke last week, and we had Sportico report this, and then Schefter had a different sort of post about this, my thought was, I think this is kind of still up in the air. And first off, number one, it's Dan Snyder, so we have to look at what's going on there. Anything with Dan Snyder is never, simple. It's always in turmoil. But I don't know if we're really at a resolution yet, which is why we were behind the scenes. We were talking about possibly doing an emergency stream about this, and I'm like, guys, I don't know stone yet. I know there's been reports. I know Sportico's had something. I know that Rappaport's had something, and I know that Schefter had something, but there was never really anything concrete except that there was, agency people or a group of people or whatnot in play for to get the Commanders. And then we were hearing, and you and I were also talking about this too, $6 billion or $7 billion,
which is nuts. Do you know how much? Do you know how much he purchased this team for?
Well, it was back in '99. It was for
$600 million.
$600 million. Yeah, it was before. But that just goes to show you what NFL, the Walmart group that bought the Broncos was at the time the record. And then now, if you think the Commanders are worth $7 billion, just think about what some of these upper echelon teams are in football or in sports in general.
Right. And this whole thing is crazy. $600 million to supposedly almost $7 billion
in almost 25 years. It's not a bad investment.
I mean, it's like the Marlins with Jeffrey Loria when he sold that team off. I mean, and I think he bought that for like $180 million and got it and sold it for like $3 billion. It's crazy.
That's crazy.
So I don't know what to believe. And the term that they used with the Josh Harris group was non-exclusive, which I had to go ask my brother, who's a financial advisor. I'm like, non-exclusive? I said, who the hell signs a deal that's non-exclusive? Never heard that before. Have you?
I've heard of it before, but I'm not a financial expert, so I don't know. There's maybe somebody that's got a ton of money. Like we know some guy in New York who does, like Steve Cohen, but
I'd love to see Steve Cohen own a football team. That would be insane.
I mean, never know.
Give him the Jets, please. At least he would run the team better.
And he wouldn't be going out there and getting quarterbacks just for namesake. You know that he's done this 3 times already. But we don't. I
think he would have made the deal for Lamar. I think he would have tried.
And you know what? That might still be in play because if supposedly Trey Lance, and I think we're going to talk about this too. If Trey Lance is available, if Trey Lance is going to be up for it, I could see a spot where Aaron Rodgers maybe wanted to go to San Francisco.
That would be insane. But we're also hearing some rumors about Brian Davis. I don't know if you saw on Twitter. You saw Sean Merriman make a tweet about Brian Davis supposedly owing a bunch of people money, and how is he putting an offer out there for $7 billion? First of all, Sean Merriman should shut his mouth, first of all, because Sean Merriman didn't really accomplish much in the NFL, to be honest. But apparently he's got all this real estate and IP and a lot of money, and I don't know much about Apostolopoulos. I think he's Canadian, from what I understand, and he's got quite a bit of money as well. I think eventually this is going to end up with the Harris group. He's already got the experience owning the Devils and the Sixers, so he's already in team ownership. And if I'm not mistaken, also, I think part of the Harris group was Magic Johnson, if I'm not mistaken.
That's what when when this first broke and Harris was being talked about, that's when I went back and looked at it. And yeah, he was his group was with other teams as well.
So, and Magic Johnson, if I'm not mistaken, is part of the Dodger ownership, right?
That's right. Yep.
That man that man's been very successful after career. Talk about someone being one of the most successful in investment.
Absolutely. Yep.
But we'll see how this plays out.
There'll be more to this.
Dan Snyder obviously is going to make out like a king out of all this. As much of an asshole that he's been, like he's going to make out with $7 billion. But what I say, and you talked about this, I think last week also with Sarver with the Suns. All right, so you got $4 billion, or Dan Snyder's going to get $6 billion, $7 billion. It's tainted money. Who cares? It's not like who wants to be in business with you anymore. Would you want to be in business with Dan Snyder anymore?
No.
I mean, is someone dumb enough going to give him another opportunity to buy an NFL team? I don't think so. Or is he going to go to MLB? Oh, God, I don't even want to think about that. Can you imagine if a team in MLB came up? Oh, I just got my $7 billion. I'll buy a team right here. Me. That would be... Or in the NBA. Think about that. You might have another Donald Sterling on your hands in that situation. Not that I condone that or any way, shape, or form. And he's another one who made out with a few $1 billion when he was forced to sell his team.
Yeah, but you know what? That was when Adam Silver first took over, and he set a good precedent there. Problem is, he hasn't followed that precedent ever since that.
Oh, just wait. We'll get to him.
We're going to get to the. I mean, if you want us to talk about charts, this is going to be the episode for you yet again. It's coming up, so stay tuned.
Yeah,
but I think just to wrap this up, though, I mean, there's going to be more to this. I mean, again, when this first broke last week, and you have multiple different reports about who's in play for how much, I don't think this is going to be the end of it.
I mean,
it looks like we're one step closer to Dan Snyder finally saying goodbye and good riddance. And the real winners about all this also are going to be the Washington Commander fans. That they won't have to, that they can maybe focus on the field again instead of all this behind the scenes craziness for the last several years with him.
I mean, they should go fire their GM after they made that dumb statement that they would rather have Sam Howell than trade for Lamar Jackson. I mean, what is wrong with you? Why would you make a statement like that?
Yeah, Sam Howell did have a great one game against Dallas, but maybe you don't want the headache in Lamar. He could have been looking at it that way too.
Yeah, but
we're talking about.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I get what you're. I get. I mean, just at the forefront, that statement in general is not the wisest thing to say. But at the same time, if you're looking at maybe Lamar's injury history and how he's handled himself this offseason, remember, he just went through a thing with Carson Wentz, so maybe they don't want to go through that all over again.
Okay, but Carson Wentz doesn't have the talent Lamar Jackson has.
Oh, I agree. I just don't know if they want to go through that road again. You know, Carson Wentz was never the same quarterback after he tore his ACL, and Lamar's now had 2 significant injuries in back-to-back years. Maybe they rather have a developed kind of guy. See, the thing with them was not just keeping Taylor Heineke there. I mean, he was doing well enough that you could get by with him.
I mean, he ended up getting a 2-year contract with who? I can't remember now.
I thought he went to Pittsburgh, but I will double check that.
Because he got a 2-year deal or a year plus, as I like to call it.
Oh, he went to Atlanta. That's
it. Right, because he took over for. Well, I don't know if he's taking a starting job or if Desmond Ridder is going to. No,
the Falcons said that Ridder is going to be their starter.
So it's really a backup situation, like with who they just signed in Washington as the backup, who was in Cleveland.
Jacoby Brissett, which I love that move. You know, and Nick, we've said this too. You know, you need a backup quarterback as much as you need a starter.
Well, Jacoby Brissett basically earned himself a job permanently, regardless, wherever that is every year, after what he did, basically taking a Browns team all the way through the PR nightmare that Deshaun Watson caused.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Brissett's a capable backup. And again, you need a backup as much as you need a starter in this league.
Sometimes I think the backup's more important, believe it or not.
Look at all the changes. I mean, remember when we did our football picks last season, and some of those names that I was reading off. I mean, you were cringing at some of these names.
I was.
You know, with a full season, 17-game season now, the way these guys are get hurt and stuff. I mean, again, the backup's just as important as the starter, which is why, Mike White going to Miami, I thought was a great move for them because we don't know. I mean, Tua did say that was the thing too. You heard Tua on Wednesday saying that he almost was thinking about retiring.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, he came out Wednesday and was talking and had a press conference about where he's been and stuff, and he was thinking about retiring because of the concussions that he had last year. But I mean, he said he's doing it right now.
The one thing I will say though is Miami made a huge mistake picking up that option as early as they did. They could have waited on that.
They could have, yeah.
Because why don't you play it out and see how he does, or let him go into train mode and see if he's healthy. If he's not healthy, why would you pick up that option? Because if I'm not mistaken, that was a $20+ million option.
Right.
So I don't know.
He did mold retirement after last season.
I'm not surprised. But since we're talking about quarterbacks, we'll talk about it. So NFL teams are calling the Niners about Trey Lance. Trey Lance is a disappointment. I hate to say it this early on, but Trey Lance got hurt. Then Mr. Irrelevant got drafted. Then Brock Purdy basically showed that he's much more than Mr. Irrelevant until he got hurt. In my opinion, and again, fallacy of a predetermined outcome, I think they go to the Super Bowl if he's healthy.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to disagree with you on that because I mean they were going great with him, and then of course you had Josh Johnson going there, and then you knew when they were behind that he couldn't be throwing, so you were running. There was definitely a good chance that was going to happen.
I mean, weren't they at a third string quarterback at one point in that game? I mean,
well, they only had Flo wasn't there. Josh Johnson, he got hurt, so that's what it was. Josh Johnson was the fourth stringer that I guess was the backup at that point because of all the quarterback injuries, and then he got concussed, and then they had to bring back him. They had to bring Lance back in, but he couldn't throw because of the elbow.
It was
he pretty much should have just been playing wildcat. He would have been better off having Deebo Samuel as a guy who could throw if you wanted to.
Talk about another guy who had a whole ego situation with his contract, because he was so angry that they were using him in the Wildcat so much and that he really just wanted to be a receiver. I mean, do what you have to do to win the damn game. I mean,
Deebo was I don't know why he was complaining about that because he was doing great at it.
I think because he just wants to be, or maybe he just wanted to be valued more in the contract negotiations. Hey, I'm wildcatting and I'm catching passes. Like, hello. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's a massive value to that team.
Going back to that, it's kind of interesting because you and I were talking on Game On a while back when the 49ers had that conference, and they said that they could not see in any scenario how Garoppolo would be back in 2023. And we found out that's absolutely true because he went to the Vegas Raiders. But given the situation with Purdy, how late he had his elbow surgery, and the fact that Trey Lance was coming off a very serious broken ankle, I don't know how you could not have kept Garoppolo there. But Garoppolo goes to Vegas. They bring in Sam Darnold, who I know you think that's crazy, but I actually like that move a lot for San Francisco because to be a capable backup. I mean, he did the job there in Carolina. Say what you want. I mean, he took a team that was 1-4 or 1-5, him with interim coach Steve Wilkes, and he got them playing relevant football to week 17 of last season.
By the way,
albeit in a crappy division, but still, he didn't make any mistakes until the game against the Bucks.
By the way,
so he's a capable.
Oh, what were you saying?
No, I was just saying he's a capable backup. I know it sounds crazy to have him there, but I like that move. Now, the situation with Lance, look, teams will always need a quarterback. Again, like we were just talking about a couple minutes ago, about a backup. Now, Lance, I don't think he's a starter. But
no.
Could somebody pick him up to be a capable backup? Absolutely.
I mean, like we've been talking about, backups, in my opinion, I think backups are sometimes more important than the starter because when the starter goes down, you need someone who could come in and pick up the pieces. It kind of, to me, the backup is what I like to call the Kyle Orton defense. Now, if you remember in Dallas, when Jerry went out and spent $10 million on Kyle Orton to be the backup to Tony Romo, well, guess what? It paid off.
Yeah.
Because if I remember correctly, Tony Romo went down with a bad injury.
Yes.
So everyone was like, oh, well, Kyle's sitting with the clipboard for $10 million. Well, you never know when you might need it.
Well, Mike White got 2 years, $16 million.
I
We saw Jarrett Stidham get 2 years, $10 million in Denver.
I'm still mad. I'm still mad that the Jets let Mike White go.
And that's fair, especially now with not knowing what the situation is going to be there next season as of right now. But
they were willing to keep Zach Wilson on this roster, but they let Mike White go.
Well, that's fair. I mean, look, if you're going to tell me that, I totally understand that. Yeah, the Lance thing is going to be fascinating because I don't really know what they could possibly get for him. He doesn't have a lot of value right now. I mean, he's a young kid, but he's coming off a multiple injury. How much you could get, but somebody will take a shot at him.
I mean, maybe he's worth a third or a fourth. Maybe I don't know. I don't know his value. I mean, excuse me. He got hurt, and then he was behind the 8 ball. That's why he's not the starter anymore, and that's why teams are calling. They're willing to take a chance on a young guy and see what happens. So, I don't know, to be honest.
I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Well, they brought him in. That wouldn't work.
Carolina.
Well, no, Carolina's got it back up.
No, but I'm saying maybe if they were looking to take a chance on a guy.
No, they're going to take a QB with the first overall pick. Now, that's the fun part's going to be is who's that going to be.
Well, but since you brought that up, why don't we talk about that? So
this was something I brought up to you. I saw this from Tom Pelissero earlier in the week. Bryce Young canceled all his remaining pre-draft meetings, and the reason why this is a big deal is because usually this indicates that a team has him in mind, meaning Carolina, with the number 1 overall pick. Now, if it were up to me, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about this leading up to the draft next Thursday.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, I think the best fit for Carolina, though, is C.J. Stroud. Now, Bryce Young could work there in Carolina, but Carolina's made so many good moves this offseason that they have to nail this one. I mean, they have to. Yeah, because, I mean, it's there. I mean, I'll be honest with you. If they get the right guy, Carolina has to step in and win the NFC South next season. It is not that far of a reach. That division is not strong. Nobody really massively improved.
I agree with you. And on top of it,
maybe New Orleans because they got Carr, but there's still a lot of question marks with that. I mean, I like Chris Olave as receiver, but we don't know. A guy that you always like to bring up a lot, Alvin Kamara. We don't really know what his future is. I don't know if Tampa Bay is going to get over the fact that, I don't know what Baker Mayfield's going to be to Tampa. Atlanta is still kind of an up-and-coming kind of team. Carolina, look at the moves they've made. Bringing in Miles Sanders, bringing in Hunter Hurst, the tight end, bringing in DJ Chark. I mean, I love what they've done.
They just got to make the right choice in the quarterback room to really make this team run. Now, one thing I do think about, could this be a smokescreen? Could this, because I've been hearing that a lot on a lot of the radio networks, stuff I listen to, that they were saying, oh, could this be a smokescreen because they have the first overall pick? They can basically control how this is going to go. Now, you said they were talking about Stroud. A lot of people have been talking about Stroud. I'm concerned with Bryce Young. I don't know what his value is really as of now. He's got the same height issues also.
Yeah, that's the thing. His height, we've been talking about Kyler Murray. That's the thing that's got me concerned. But I mean, they both Young and Stroud both definitely do have the arm. I mean, their numbers are pretty similar in college. I mean, I think Stroud's numbers are a little bit better last season because Young did miss a couple of games. But I mean, they're both very capable QBs, but I just don't know about Bryce Young's size in the NFL. That's the thing. You don't have in college, you don't have those kind of big guys. I mean, you have big people like this, but not tall people that you got to throw over.
Right. And that's going to be the issue. What are they going to decide on? I mean, there's plenty of quarterbacks. It's a lot different than last year. Last year's quarterback draft class was a mess. Like, there was nobody.
I mean, the first guy that was taken was Pickett, and that was down in the 20s.
Right.
You're talking now, you've got Young, you've got Stroud, Anderson. I mean, not Anderson. You've got Anthony Richardson from Florida. You've got Will Levis from Kentucky. You've got Stetson Bennett from Georgia, who I don't really know what his value is going to be.
It's pretty much nothing.
It's going to be late. I think you're talking about probably third round for him because I mean he is 25 years, besides his off-season problems. He is 25 years old. Stetson
Right.
Bennett. It's not like he's a 21-year-old kid coming out of college. I mean, he's been in school for forever now.
Feels like forever. I mean, like,
yeah. I mean, you're 25 and you're coming into the league for the first time. It's a lot.
And also, he's partying a little too hard after that national championship victory. We don't want to see him in.
It's not been a great off season for Georgia personnel.
No, and on top of that, we don't want another Laramie Tunzel situation with Stetson Bennett.
No.
But for most people who don't understand that was the whole mask droppage issue because he was supposed to be like a top 5 pick, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll tell you right now. I mean, we've seen that with Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle from Georgia. He originally was going to be. They were talking about him being the first defensive player off the board, and now they have him going down as. I mean, some of the mock drafts, the highest I've seen him has been 9, which ironically would be to the Bears, who had the number 1 overall pick and then traded it to Carolina.
Hey, they got a lot back in return, but here's the thing, and Tom and I did a story on it that his agent Drew Rosenhaus, of all people, came out and basically said, "We're not willing to talk to teams below the 10th pick." Really?
That's not really wise to say.
And then on top of that, if you remember when he went back to the combine, the man ran out of breath during his run.
Now, the one thing I will say to that, a lot of people were talking about that, but could it have also been because of what happened with him this offseason with the tragic crash, if that was still weighing on his mind?
I mean, it's the combine. You got to be in shape.
That's fair, but I mean, you have to also remember though too, at the end of the day, these are still kids that are just coming out of school, and mentally maybe he still wasn't in the right frame of mind. Now, that being said though, all that stuff adding up together is not helping his cause.
Right.
Between the crash, between the combine, and between his... So I wouldn't be surprised if he actually does go farther down. That's why it's funny. I don't take much out of the combine, but that, and then also coupled with how good Anthony Richardson was at the combine, that's why there was even talk about Carolina going to the Anthony Richardson route at number 1. But now it looks more and more like he could go to full Indy, unless there's going to be a team that trades with the Cardinals at 3.
Well, they were talking about Levis going early on, and I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, Will Levis is another one, and I'm not as high on him. I mean, he was pretty good at Kentucky, but I don't know if I'm as high on him as say some other guys are.
Right, and it'll be interesting. I think Bryce Young is going to go early. That's just my gut. I think that's is it a good pick? I don't know.
Well,
we'll see.
Well, let's put it this way: he's either going to Carolina or he's going to Houston. He's going 1 or 2.
I don't think he goes past the 2nd pick. To be honest.
I agree with you. It's either going to be 1 or 2. And the fun part's going to be besides this is what happens with the Cardinals at 3. Because one of the things also with the Cardinals too, I know we didn't talk about it at the beginning there, but Budda Baker wants out at Arizona too.
Ugh, he's another
one. The Cardinals are a mess. I mean, they finally got rid of Cliff Kingsbury, which is great, but I mean that team is still an absolute mess.
By the way, speaking of college personnel, back to USC.
Yeah, not even as a coach though. He's like a what did he go back?
It's like a personnel position.
Yeah, I was going to say it's some sort of personnel that he went, but yeah, I mean he had to go.
He had to go. That team was in dire straits, and also the whole viral homework clause situation that almost caused a nightmare there with Kyler Murray.
I mean, year in the making there with Kyler and stuff. Yeah.
When I look back at like moments of the year for the podcast, that's the one I'm going to look back at and be like, "Wow, really? Homework clause in the 46 million? I mean, you should be doing that anyway. You should be in the film room as a quarterback." But
almost a year since that happened too, which is absolutely nuts.
That's so crazy.
I believe the Kyler extension was in June or July.
It was in the summer. Yeah,
was when the news of the homework clause came out. But yeah, those are the big storylines to me. There are 3 storylines I look at when we talk about the draft next week. Who Carolina takes at 1, what Arizona does with that pick at 3, and my third big thing for the draft, Nick, is what happens with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. Does he get traded before the draft, draft night or afterwards? Or does this trade completely fall through and Aaron Rodgers does not go to the Jets and he goes to, dare I say, San Francisco?
That would be insane. I mean, that first of all, that this Aaron Rodgers contract is not done. I mean, trade is not done. But the Jets hold the cards in this negotiation, if that's what we want to call it. Because the Jets will just say, kick rocks. We're not giving you a first-round pick. And then you're stuck with him because you've already said you're moving on and you have Jordan Love. So, in my opinion, if in the Jets organization, I'm not giving up a first-round pick. I don't know how long he's going to be here for.
I mean, when you and I spoke a few weeks ago when he was talking with McAfee, I think he's got maybe 2 good years left.
I mean, we'll see what happens. I just don't know.
But the problem, see, the funny thing though is you look at both teams for a second. So the Packers already said they're going to Jordan Love, but if the Jets don't get Aaron Rodgers, then where do they go? Because you kind of built this whole team almost trying to build towards Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you brought in Lazard.
I happen to like Lazard, but I'm not like as a number one by any means.
No, he's not. Garrett Wilson's your number one guy. I mean, you're not that's. I mean, he's offensive player of the year for a reason. But I mean, you've got the team there. You got to shore up that line, and you got to get a QB. And then the Jets right now, we're talking about them as a 9 to 10 win team next season. I mean, if you can get 7 wins with crappy quarterback play last year, you get a solid offensive line, solid quarterback play. And to me, the Bills are not going to be as good as they were last season. I think the Bills are not as close as people think they are. I think they're actually further away than you are.
Right. I mean, I'm not jumping to the parade quite yet, if you know what I mean.
No, I know. Well, you're still a Jets fan until Aaron Rodgers gets there, right? That's what we determined.
Yeah, pretty much. I still don't see the logic. Like, all the Jets fans are jumping up and down. Oh my God, we got a quarterback. And I'm like, no. I'd rather, if you're going to spend a first round pick, if that's what, you might as well just get Lamar Jackson. I know it's a headache, but at least you might pay him and he might stay. Like, at least that's the way I see it. But I don't know. It is what it is. But make sure we've been talking about a lot of the drafts. You got a little bit of preview from us. Empty the Bench live stream special 2023 NFL Draft Thursday, April 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time live. So make sure you come and you join us too, and Tom, and hopefully some others that might be along the way. What I was going to say earlier, and I forgot, with the Bryce Young situation, leaks. Do you remember how frustrated last year the NFL was about the leaks?
About stuff coming out before it actually happens.
Yes. And now Bryce Young canceled all his meetings. Leak!
Well, or like you said, is that maybe just like a bluff or something?
I know, but it still sounds bad that we're leaking things that could lead to perception, is my point.
Well, the thing though too is it's been back and forth for a long time now about what Carolina's going to do. Is it going to be, they're high on, the reports are they're high on Stroud. Now Young's canceling all his meetings. They loved what Anthony Richardson did during the combine. So every other week or so, it's something different. And that's why this is going to be so fun. We always know in years past who the number one guy is going to be. I'll tell you right now, we're a week from the draft. I couldn't tell you who Carolina's taking at number one. And that's going to be fun.
I mean, that's nice for a change that we don't have an automatic first pick until we pretty much see who they're going to take off the board.
Yeah. I mean, 1 and 2, we know the position.
Yeah.
Like last year, we knew the first 2 players last year were going to be defensive guys. We just didn't know if it was going to be Trayvon Walker or who's the guy? Henderson from who's the defensive guy from Detroit?
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Ugh.
But you know what I'm saying. So this year, though, we don't know exactly, and I'm going to try to next Thursday during the draft show not check social media to see any leaks or anything, because that's one thing the NFL they do versus the NBA and stuff is they usually don't have. I mean, some insiders may leak it out, but you don't have as many as you would say like in the NBA, like with Woj or Shams. They usually say that this team is going to draft so and so by the with the first or second pick. You don't really see that in the NFL. I think they've gotten a lot better at that, and it makes it a lot more fun. So we all be surprised.
Right. And I don't know was it the NBA or the NFL that had the rules about not leaking stuff during the draft?
It's football.
Or was it, I thought the NBA had that rule now also, but I can't remember. I think it was the NFL first that did it.
Yeah. Well, we always still see though that Woj and the selections out like a minute or two beforehand.
Well, because for the NBA, Woj and Shams are way on top of everything before everybody else. All right. Let's move from the NFL to now we got to get into the NBA. Now, I was gone last week. There was a lot of things that happened, and now we got to deal with this nonsense. NBA Executive Vice President Joe Dumars. Now, you might know Joe Dumars because he was the GM of the Detroit Pistons. Now, basically runs the league pretty much behind Adam Silver. Now, for most people who didn't know what happened in Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals between the Warriors and the Kings, a very aggressive game. A lot going on in this game. This is a great series, by the way. The Kings are back in the playoffs, I think, for the first time in 17 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they had the longest playoff drought, obviously in the NBA, but in North American sports, it's been that long.
And also, they were on ABC for like the first time in over a decade, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, yeah, you got to go back to like the Vlade Divacs and Peja Stojakovic days there in Sacramento. It's been a long time coming, but
so
one of if not the best stories in the league this year for sure.
Right, and they played good basketball, and I think DeAndre Fox won the Clutch Award, which was the new award for the first time they had. That they brought into the league this year. I think it's an interesting award, actually. It was him and I think Jimmy Butler who are up there at the top. But this has been a very aggressive series. The Kings are up 2-0. They won both their games at home. By the way, the Warriors, it's a fact. We've known it all year. Worst road team in the NBA. Can't win away from the Chase Center at all. And I just don't understand it. Like, they had a full issue. Andrew Wiggins is finally back, but he was gone for the whole year with some kind of personal family issue that we never found out what that was. Still not winning, though. And it was very interesting watching JJ Redick on First Take basically coming out and saying, I think I don't complain about the referees. And you know what's coming after that when you say you never do something.
But
and then he starts complaining that he thought that like they were favoring the Kings, and I'm like, come on, really? This is what we're doing?
That's a bit much. It's a great story. The Kings are the best story in the league this year, but
yeah, they are the best story in the league this year. But then you have an issue with Draymond Green. Draymond Green can't stay out of the news. He can't stay out of the headlines. He can't stay out of all the headlines coming around. And then there's an issue with him and Sabonis. I can't remember his first.
Sabonis, yeah.
Right. And they're battling under the rim. And basically, Sabonis grabs Draymond Green's leg. People are refusing to acknowledge that in some way, shape, or form. And then Draymond goes full karate chop foot on Sabonis' chest. And I forgot what they did. So they stopped play. I thought they were calling a foul. They actually stopped. They never called a foul on Draymond Green. They called I guess technically they did call a foul because they called a flagrant 2. But I have a massive problem with the way this was handled in every way, shape, or form. I don't think did they call a technical on Sabonis or no?
I don't remember, but
they might have. I don't know.
I think now that I think about it, I think they did.
But how do you give Draymond a flagrant 2 when, according to, and I hate now they're doing this in all the leagues, they now have Lonnie McCutcheon, who's the lead official, being the NBA replay guy, like they do in the NFL.
You know what, Nick? This is every sport in almost every channel. You know, if you were watching Turner Sports NHL coverage, they're doing the same thing. They got a rule analysts and stuff like. See, that all started. It all started
The NFL.
It started with the NFL, but it started specifically with Mike Pereira, and then every team, and then CBS did it with. At the time, it was before it was Gene Steratore.
Mike Carey.
Mike Carey, that's right.
Who was horrible, by the way.
Yeah, he wasn't great, but Gene Steratore is fantastic. And now they got him now across all CBS sports too. But then ESPN had their own guy, NFL, NBC on the NFL on Sunday Night Football, they have their own guy. So it's like a whole new thing. Dean Blandino also with Mike Pereira too. I mean, now they expanded to. You see that with every sport. I guess the only sport you don't see that with for now is baseball, but that's coming because
no, I thought sometimes they have umpires in the replay center, don't they?
Oh, you know what? I can't tell you the last time I watched a full 9-inning baseball game. Thanks, Rob.
Wow, Mr. Baseball not watching a full 9-inning game.
Don't worry, Rob Manfred. I'm coming for you. Stay tuned. You're not.
Trust me.
Although,
no, we'll be there. But
no, saving the worst for last. I don't know if I could say that right now, but we're going to get to them. But see, I'm glad that Joe Dumars did label this as repeat defense. When I saw the replay of this on Wednesday morning, the first thing I thought about was the reason why they gave him a flagrant 2 and got rid of him is because Draymond's been down this road before and in the postseason before. We saw that in the NBA Finals a few years back, how he got suspended for one game and it altered the Cavs series
8 years ago. Yes.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think they got that one wrong too, to be honest. Like, it's the playoffs. How many times have we said this? The playoffs are going to be more aggressive. It just happens. You can't suspend the players during the playoffs. You can't. I'm sorry. You can't do it.
Unless it's like Dumars said, excessive and over the top. Now, was this excessive and over the top? That's debatable.
How is this excessive over the top? Sabonis, they said, and Lonnie McCutcheon said it from the replay center during the game, that Sabonis had an illegal action grabbing his ankle. So how are you supposed to react if someone is grabbing your ankle and you get hurt?
Yeah, if you get injured because of that, I mean, does it take an injury for that to actually warrant it being okay?
And you know what? People got mad at Draymond in the press conference because he's like, well, where do you want me to put my leg? And blah, 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 blah. Okay. Like, I understand, like, he was kidding around, but that's the truth. Where did you want him to put his leg?
Yeah. See, people are just they just don't like Draymond's actions and Draymond, like whether it's on social media, whether it's in real life or whatnot. I mean, it's not like he's done anything criminal. It's just a lot of, in-game action, talk and stuff that just like bothers a lot of people.
The one thing I will say though is I don't like the WWE mantra that he pulled after the whole action happened, where basically he's taunting the crowd and he's yelling at fans and you're seeing all the F-bombs and that's not good.
Hey, got to be fair. You know what? We criticized Kyrie Irving a lot for what he's done. This is, it's not flipping the bird, but swearing. We've always said this. Athletes going after the fans is never a winning move.
And by the way, people are forgetting who was in the building that night.
Was he there?
Adam Silver was in the building that night.
That guy, yes, he was there.
Does Draymond Green realize that Adam Silver is watching this all go down live as it's happening?
He probably doesn't care.
I mean, again, I will defend the fact that, and by the way, that's Adam Silver calling.
Adam Silver, yep. Adam Silver's on line one.
You know what?
Don't worry, Mr. Silver, we're going to get to you next.
He gets mad every time I mention his name, so he has to call and.
Oh boy, he's one of those. He's one of those folks. Yep.
He's probably going to fine me $750,000 next.
He's one of those. Yep.
But I think excessive and over the top actions. I will debate that for years. That this is excessive and over the top. You should have given Sabonis a flagrant then, if it's such an illegal action, which McCutcheon said. Go for anyone who's watching this now. Go back and watch what he said. That Sabonis is grabbing of the ankle was an illegal action. Okay, good, fine. But if you're going to give Draymond a flagrant 2, then you have to give Sabonis a flagrant.
That's not asking much. Not really asking for much.
And I'm not talking about a flagrant 2 like Draymond got, but you got to give him a flagrant. You got to be fair. Just because Draymond has a reputation doesn't mean you treat him worse than the guy who was involved in the action.
I think that's what it is, though, because when Dumars admits this, use those words exactly that you see on the screen there, then it's not really surprised that they give him a suspension because he's been down this road before. It's almost surprising they give him a 2-game suspension.
Well,
if injured, it gets to be really bad. But unfortunately, we've been down this road with Draymond a lot. If you remember before the season started, we were talking about him going at it with Jordan Poole.
That one I will never agree with him on, ever. He is a moron for that one. If Jordan was doing something and antagonizing people, it's your own teammate. You can't antagonize your own team, one, but you can't punch him in the face.
And now, if you look at this on the court now, the Warriors are down 2-0 going back. I always say you don't panic or you don't say the series is over until you lose a game at home. But now you don't have Draymond going back to Oakland in Game 3. We wonder now, this is really starting to be the end of this dynasty or this run for Golden State.
Yeah, I think it probably. Well, here you have 2 issues coming up. Draymond's up for contract, and Klay Thompson is up for contract.
Yeah,
and people are saying, "Oh, well, you can't break it." Yes, you can. You can break this up. They're not going to pay both anymore.
I don't see how you can pay both.
You
still got Poole, you still got Wiggins.
Right.
Curry's locked in, but you still got other guys in that team you got to lock in.
You have Looney, you have those guys. Who are all worth keeping, by the way. Back when they were winning, you were willing to absorb that luxury tax hit.
Yeah.
Now they're making it even more difficult with all the rules that you can't go over the luxury anymore, which makes it harder to have super teams and all that nonsense that happened over the years. But to say this is excessive and over the top, I'm sorry. I don't know if I agree with that. Even Shaq, who's been through his fair share of nonsense over the many years, over a decade ago, would you have ever seen this been a flagrant 2 and a suspension? No,
because back in Shaq's days, that's what they were doing. They actually were playing tough-nosed, hard-fought defense.
Now, because these rules that they have in play now is because they're trying to protect guys because I don't want to be touched. Don't hit me.
It's got to be ridiculous. Yeah, talk about over the top. That's over the top.
And the whole repeat offender nonsense, that goes all the way back to the Malice in the Palace, especially for Joe Dumars, who was the GM of the Pistons. Why don't you just say, "Oh, well, you're mad at the whole Malice at the Palace nonsense," and just admit it already? Because that's what that sounds like to me.
Yeah, I'll tell you, this might have been the thing that ultimately breaks up the Warriors, though.
I think you're right. Draymond's not worth being paid.
I think now the way things are looking, I don't see how he comes back.
Now I should pick my words carefully because now I'm going to be talked about on his podcast, which he destroys everybody else on.
I know. It's one of those guys.
But I don't know.
But, look at Sacramento, though. I'll say this. I was on with Tom last week, and I was saying to him, I actually gave the thing that got me worried about Golden State in the series was the fact they didn't have home court advantage, but you had the experience versus the young team there in Sacramento. And you know what? Once again, so far, it's looking like the home court's playing the big deal. But now it's 2-0 going.
I happen to like the Kings. I was going to say, I'm sure you've said that too. Mm-hmm. I happen to like the way the Kings are playing.
Yeah, and you know what? Mike Brown, who's probably going to win Coach of the Year there in Sacramento, and should. That helps too. You got a very good head coach who's been down this road several times before, back with the Cavs days and stuff. So he knows how to beat Golden State. So that could have been one thing I could have looked at a little bit more when I did my homework on that, is you did have a head coach who knew how to beat Golden State, especially coming back from 3-1 down. Absolutely.
It's a great story. I hope Mike Brown wins Coach of the Year. I hope they win this series, really, because I think Golden State's time is kind of
It's
over.
Yeah, I mean, in a conference that's not that strong and not that deep, Nick, it's that's why I thought Golden State had one more shot in them because it's not that strong. Now, who could that benefit? I think the Lakers might be able to benefit from that.
Well, I think Memphis is in trouble, especially if Morant is not healthy and not playing. Here's the deal. If he does not play, they're not winning games.
Yeah.
Now, are the Lakers the most perfect team in the league right now? No. Is LeBron and AD on the other side of AARP? Yes. But if the Grizzlies don't have Morant, who's stepping up? Not much.
Not much, no.
And Dylan Brooks needs to shut his mouth.
Well, when Morant was out, you saw Memphis. I don't think they were that great, their record-wise, with Morant when he was out for that suspension, which, by the way, was another great Adam Silver moment. But I mean, pretty much giving him a 2-game suspension,
right?
But yeah, if there's not in the playoffs, as much as we talk about your star players, your role players or gets really tested.
Right. And the Lakers, I mean, I think they might win this series. I just think that's the way it's leaning because Memphis has not figured out how to put it together past the first round, really. And Morant still has a lot of physical, mental issues to figure out. I mean, and actually, since we're talking about it, I'll go there with John Morant files a countersuit against the teenager suing him. Allegedly, Morant pulled out a gun. I think it was at his home basketball court, if I'm not mistaken. There's too much mentally and physically going on with Morant.
Yeah, and I think part of it, too, is he didn't get a long enough suspension.
I agree with you. Totally.
Yeah, I mean, it should have been much longer, and he probably needed longer just to, get himself back into a better spot. I mean, the interview with Jalen Rose, he said all the right things, but, it's one thing to say all the right, but then to go back and do it. And Memphis, while he was out, to me, just didn't seem like they were the same team without him being there. And I think the Lakers might be the healthiest they've been all season. And you know that LeBron's got that desire and that urge to get one more run in him. And again, he sees that Western Conference. I mean, right now, I would tell you that probably it's either the Nuggets or the Suns. But even I still have my doubts about both of them too.
Right. And I don't know. The whole Morant thing I was going to say on the Jalen Rose interview, a lot of that seemed fake to me. Those answers, like it was more like I'm just going to sit down and say the right things so I can get through this interview and be done with it. I'm starting to question whether Morant, because we were all saying that Morant could be the NBA even said that Morant could be the face of the NBA. I with all this stuff going on with Morant, I don't know if he can be the face of the NBA right now.
And remember how the talk was that the Knicks might, of course, got unlucky that they missed out on getting him? Well, tell you what, if you look at that draft, Knicks might have actually gotten the best bid of that.
Well, we're going to touch on a certain something with that in a second, but I don't think Morant can be the face of the league. And people are going to get mad. Memphis Grizzlies fans are going to get mad. In my opinion, John Morant cannot be the face of the league. He just can't be.
Not with this, no.
And
you can have your face of the league having this kind of situation.
No. And first of all, he's young. I'm not excusing his attitude. I'm not excusing what he did, but he's young. And in my opinion, Giannis is the face of this league, not Morant.
Giannis, Jokic. I mean,
Jokic. Well, Jokic.
Yeah.
Jokic has had his moments.
Jokic, he's going for his third straight MVP. Now, I don't think he's going to win it this year, but that he's probably in there because the NBA would love to have a story of a three straight MVP, which hasn't, I can't remember last time that's been.
I don't think that's ever happened.
I don't think Jordan won a three in a row, if I remember correctly. LeBron didn't win a 3 in a row.
No, but I think Embiid would be the best headline as MVP if he wins.
And Nick, I think those three, Tom and I were talking about this last week. The thing with Giannis is Giannis missed some time this year because of injury. Now, it's not to be a downplay, but I think if you're an MVP, I think you've got to play almost the whole season. And I think I think Embiid did that, and he had nights where he was putting up 50 points a game. I mean, I know he's got Harden, and he's got some other valuable guys, but the numbers that he's putting up there are just downright insane what he's doing.
First of all, if Embiid is not on that team, they're in the cellar. If he's not playing,
there may be a playoff team, maybe.
No, but he is the most valuable player on that team. You and I have had this discussion in baseball about Ohtani. Is he the most valuable player, or is he the most outstanding player?
Yeah, and that's what it is.
But Embiid is the most valuable player. They would not be where they are without him. They're not going to go as far or have the chance to win an NBA title without Embiid. Harden can't lead a team by himself. We've already learned that the hard way.
Seen that. Yep.
And he's already talking about going back to Houston in rumors already. So it's that. First of all, Philly will always be Embiid's team. Always. It'll never be Harden's team. Ever. So, and that's the problem here with the Grizzlies. Who is the face of the team right now? It's Morant. But how can that be? There's too much going on there.
Yeah. And I think I still think the Lakers are going to win that series.
So do I. Yeah.
I think they've got more. I think there's too much baggage and too much concern on Memphis' side right now. They're dealing with this. They don't know if Morant's even healthy right now. That hand injury that we don't know, even if he does play, how effective he's going to be. That's a big deal.
In my opinion, though, and I don't say this too often, this is what I like to call a throwaway series because I don't think either team is going to make it down the line anyway. So,
well, if the Lakers, if the Lakers win, they would play. They're the 7th seed, so they would probably play Denver if Denver got past.
That would be interesting, I would say. But
I'd love to. You know what I'd love to see? I know it won't be this, but I would love to see Kings Lakers because that would be that young team going up against a LeBron squad.
Yeah,
sure before, but then Mike Brown again, the coaching thing. Mike Brown there versus Darvin Ham. I know we probably won't get that, but that would be a series to watch.
Wasn't Mike Brown the head coach of the Lakers at one point?
Yes.
It's far distant memory, but somehow
also the coach with LeBron too back in Cleveland.
Yeah, I remember those days.
It would be, and the young scrappy Kings squad going against LeBron, AD, and
that was around the Cleveland days. It was Mike Brown, and then I can't remember the guy's name from Israel.
Oh, who's his name?
Who they way overhyped.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember it. I'm looking it up as we.
Well, that's why the West was always a fascinating one because even the Clippers in the Suns series, first time that Durant and Booker were on the floor together and they lost the game where both of them were playing together.
David Blatt.
You're right. That's right. Yep.
Who got way overhyped and way overpaid, and I think he left after a season and a half.
It wasn't long. Yeah, I think it was a year plus.
So. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But Morant is a NO for me on the face of the NBA. There's no way that can be.
It's not even a top 5 guy, if you ask me.
I'm actually leaning in that direction to agree with you. Mm-hmm. Since we're talking, let's talk about players. So Embiid,
Giannis,
Jokic.
Heck, I wouldn't say Devin Booker.
KD. I don't know.
No, not anymore.
Not anymore.
He's hurt too much.
Right, but Booker,
and his antics too are also, not what you want either.
Speaking of,
it's not criminal what he's doing, but his antics are way too much.
Speaking of antics, did you see what was trending with him the other night? That Russell Westbrook blocked his shot.
Yes,
that made me. I felt so good after that. I needed that moment.
Look, you got to be as a Nets fan here. Even if they don't beat the 76ers, which doesn't look like it, but the fact that you got to the playoffs and Kyrie's team missed it
we'll get to that.
The Mavericks are in total dysfunction, and Durant's in Phoenix, but really, he can't stay on the court. He's in warmups and misses even more time, and the Nets have this young, scrappy team. He shouldn't get Coach of the Year because he's an intern, but Jock Vaughn's got to be. If Mike Brown's 1. Jock Vaughn's 2.
Well, no, he's not an interim. He's the official head coach now.
Oh, that's right. But he didn't start the year with them. That's the thing.
No, that was the year before, wasn't it?
No, Steve Nash had the first 7 games, and then Jock took over, and then he became the head coach after that.
It seems like a distant memory at this point.
It was actually one of our more famous behind the scenes folks. That was one of our more famous Game On episodes because Nick and I were about to start the show, and then the news broke and the Nets had parted ways, and we had to delay our recording.
Oh, that literally changed the whole show. Like that was the whole show.
Absolutely, and that's what happens in this fun day and age. But yeah, so to me, Morant's not a top 5. I mean, I could even. Do you want me to be bold and say not even top 10?
I mean, I'm almost tending to agree with you on that too. I mean, like the guy.
I'll be biased. I'll put Barrett before I put freaking Morant in there. Because right now, you look at those top 3 picks: Zion, Morant, and Barrett, and the Knicks got the best of the 3.
Well, Zion's a bust right now. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, people are going to get mad at me for that too, but Zion is a massive bust. Not even just a bust. And you heard the statement that he made the other day? Oh, I'm physically, but I'm not mentally there. What do you mean you're not mentally there?
He's trending towards Greg Oden.
I mean, your team is in the
play.
Wait a minute. Your team is in the playoffs. Playoffs. Yes, I'm stealing an NFL reference here. Playoffs. And you are not mentally. Get the out of here. You shouldn't be on this team. Your team needs you to win.
Sometimes you have to get lucky with the draft.
No, but like I just remember when Zion, like Greg Oden, Zion was huge. The Nike deal, the exploding shoe, the lawsuit almost with Nike. And now he can't even stay on the damn court.
Those 360 dunks at Duke at Cameron Indoor. Showing highlight reels for days. And
I mean, I remember when Greg Oden was pulling rims down at Ohio State.
Yep.
And now when he went to the NBA, every time he dunked, he got hurt.
Absolutely.
I guarantee you Portland is probably kicking themselves right now.
Sure is. Yep.
Wait, did he ever play with another team? I can't even remember.
No, it was only a few years he was there, too. We played, 2 or 3 years, and that was it.
But they say big men just get hurt constantly, and that's why Giannis is now experiencing the back injuries, but Jokic is such an anomaly because 2 back-to-back MVPs as a big man.
Well, you don't have many of those anymore.
I mean, the big man game is kind of gone in the NBA.
Oh, it's positionless basketball, pretty much. That's really all it is now.
I mean, it's pretty much sharpshooters.
That was LeBron that started that, really, because he could play all 5 positions.
I mean, what was the dumb thing? They used to call him a power center.
Power center, yeah.
Because he could dribble the ball, he could pass, he played like a point guard, but he was almost 7 feet. I mean, or not 7 feet. He's like 6'5" or whatever he was. Like, it's just crazy. I mean, but all right, let's move around a little bit. I'll stay in this space. We got to talk about domestic violence again. And Miles Bridges. Now, what is that? Is that Portland or is he in Charlotte now?
Charlotte.
Okay.
The Hornets.
Okay, so this news kind of dropped under the radar, to be quite honest. And I saw the PR statement come out. You saw it. I saw your reaction to it.
Oh, yeah.
And Miles Bridges suspended 30 games, 10 games basically with 20 retroactive, which makes no sense to me, for domestic violence arrest last year. Now, this kind of came out last year, but it kind of was under the radar. Do you know what the incident was? Because I don't remember 100%.
I believe there was something with was it with his kid or something? Not his kid, but something involved.
Well, that was Rondo. Rondo was the one who had
Rondo, but
I'm looking it up because I don't.
Yeah, well, you look that up. Here's the thing I would say about this. So this is the second time in the last couple of weeks, and it's funny, we're just talking about Morant, but this is the second time in the last few weeks that we were talking about a player that got suspended for got a suspension, but it was much less than really what it was. So they announce a 30-game suspension, but they say that he's already done 20 because he was in a program or something.
Who cares?
Same thing with John Morant. They gave him an 8-game suspension, and pretty much they said he already served 6 of that, so he pretty much only got a 2-game suspension. See, this is the thing that we've talked about with these guys. The NBA has had a problem this recently where they are not taking the lead. You were forcing the Nuggets. The Celtics took the lead with Udoka. The Suns took the lead with Sarver. it's like
The Grizzlies with Morant.
the Grizzlies with Morant, and then the NBA gave him a 2-game suspension, pretty much.
Well, because they basically said, "Oh, he was sitting out already." What do you mean he was sitting out? He was waiting.
And I think Hank brought this up on Game On Tuesday, that he doesn't like the retroactive suspensions.
I don't either.
I don't get that. You don't see that in any other sport. Now you see retroactive when it comes to injury. That's different. But
Right, duh. Because you want the guys to come back sooner. MLB, they're famous for doing that.
yeah.
But I just found the incident, though.
So what was it exactly?
So this was from April 14th. Oh, sorry. So last week. Miles Bridges pled no contest to felony domestic violence in the fall, suspended 30 games. The league announced that Bridges had played for the Hornets for 4 seasons before he was accused of assaulting his girlfriend in front of their children last June.
I knew there was children with that, but
He was not under contract, I guess when it happened.
well, that might have been that Charlotte actually took the lead on. That's another case. I think the team took the lead. But think about that felony domestic violence, and he got 30. So he didn't even get suspended half a season for a felony domestic violence charge.
I mean, do I really have to say this again? And this is more of an NFL thing. The professional sports leagues seem to not care about domestic violence, even though we see all the PSAs, all the commercials, all the stuff for domestic violence, but we don't seem to care as professional leagues.
I think hockey's the only one that actually does take a serious tone on that. We don't see it in football enough. We don't see it now. We don't see it in basketball and baseball. I mean, you remember the situation with Aroldis Chapman? He got 25 games,
Which is a lot for an MLB player because of the long season. But
even for a pitcher, it seems like it's less because you're not playing in all 25 games.
true, but I mean, you're still losing the money because you're still paid throughout the whole season. But my point is that the NBA does not pick up on these issues. And then they say, all right, because you sat and didn't play for 20 games, we'll just tack that on and take that off. Why? You're giving them a way out. How does that make sense?
Why? Because he wasn't playing because of because the team took the lead on that.
Right.
So the team actually takes a bigger, more serious tone on the player than the actual league does.
They got the Udoka situation wrong also.
Yeah, that was the Celtics that had to do that.
I mean,
The Celtics was Udoka was the Celtics. Sarver was the Suns. That was not the league.
they got that one wrong too. I mean, they basically were watching the Suns handle this whole thing.
Absolutely right. It is crazy to think what Adam Silver, and yeah, you can put that graphic up. Adam Silver first took over as commissioner. He set a bold precedent. The first thing he had to deal with, and it was almost like immediately once he became commissioner, was the Donald Sterling situation in LA with the Clippers. And he handled that perfectly right at the start. He set a bold precedent. And ever since then, he has not done that. He has not done that with Sarver.
Wait a minute. You want to know why he did that? Because he had to make a statement as the new commissioner.
Right. And it was right when he took over for the late, great David Stern. But he took the lead on that, and he set a bold precedent. But ever since then, he has not done that.
Right, because Adam Silver would rather be friends with the NBA players than not.
That's the thing, commissioner. We do know that. He is a players commissioner. That is absolutely valid. And think about this. He met with John Morant. If you remember, he met with him
in New York.
And he said that there was in the Kyrie Irving situation too with the Nets. That's another one we missed up too. That was but he said he met with Morant and said that Morant displayed, said all the right things, great behavior and stuff.
Who cares?
So I could meet with, let's say, my management if I ever committed something, and I could say all the right things and I can act gracefully and everything, but it doesn't take away from that. I don't know. I mean, this league, and just think they actually did agree on a new CBA, which is absolutely amazing.
Well, they dumped it at 2 a.m. on a Monday or whatever, but
it was an overnighter. Yep.
But I don't get this. This Adam Silver would rather care about the players than if they do something horrible and commit domestic violence. And they don't do anything. In my opinion, Morant should have been suspended for the rest of the year.
Yeah, that would have been fair.
And should have never seen a court for the rest of the year. The things that he
Not a
did.
basketball court.
You know what I mean.
I know.
Well, he should have seen that court a long time ago, but they didn't investigate him for whatever reason. They said he did nothing wrong, which I don't know if I believe. And then the strip club decided to. They basically got paid off to put the pictures on TMZ and all that nonsense. But Morant's got some problems mentally. Waving a gun in a nightclub. I mean, that should tell you it all right there.
Yeah, no regular person is doing that.
I mean, what happens if he, and I said this to Hank and he kind of agreed with me, but what if he plaxicoed himself?
Talking about a whole different situation. And does it take something like that to actually, make a bold statement about your suspension and stuff?
I mean, what if, I'll go one step further, not just plaxicoed himself, what happens if he picks the gun up and it goes off?
Should be banned from the league.
If he killed somebody, and we've seen this in the NFL, thanks Ray Lewis, who supposedly got away with killing somebody. But I don't know. I mean, the only other example I could, think of is Pac-Man Jones. That man's
gosh.
How many things did he get away with and somehow managed to stay in the league?
I don't have enough fingers on both hands to talk to bring that up.
And now he's doing stuff with Sirius, and he's on with McAfee all the time on his show.
Yeah, he's on all the time.
I mean, talk about someone who gets away with murder. No pun intended. But I don't know. I don't understand this. This whole situation is crazy. And I mean, look at the Rondo situation. And now he's on ESPN. He's everywhere. Because the NBA has a reputation of forgiving everybody, even if it's the most serious of crimes.
It's going down the NFL road when it comes to this. In some ways, it could even be worse.
I mean, and I don't know how to deal with domestic violence. There's no toleration. There should be a zero tolerance policy for domestic violence.
You would think with the amount of times that we talk about lockouts in sports, which seems to be growing a lot, that this would be a big topic in those discussions. But it seems like all we talk about is money. We don't ever talk about the fact that they don't come down harder on us. Problem in all sports. I think hockey's the only one that really does come. I mean, you don't hear about as much as hockey, but they are very, very strict when it comes to, suspending players, whether it's because of drugs or whatnot.
But you had that other incident. I can't remember who it was recently. We talked about it in one of the podcasts. Well, the bullying incident they had.
Incident was the Bruins player, but
Gary Bettman was not fooling around on that incident, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, they did it also, if you remember, with the Sharks player that had the fake COVID vaccine card.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I can't remember.
You get where but you see where I'm coming at with.
They don't fool around with that shit. I mean, like NHL seems to be the one on top of it. I didn't expect Gary Bettman to be leading the charge when it comes to domestic violence and COVID.
That is why, and I know this is a hot take, and I will continue to say this. And if you disagree, ETB Sports on Twitter or at Montalbano NY.
Yeah,
Gary Bettman is the second best commissioner in pro sports right now.
Who's number one?
Goodell. Even with all his baggage, you still got to give it to Goodell.
I mean, right now, that doesn't seem like a bad take. Now that I've thought about it for a little bit.
Think about what the NHL's become, though. Now, I mean, they've got the way that the playoffs are structured now. The fact that they've got a TV deal back with ESPN and Turner Sports, so you can get pretty much every playoff game on right now. NHL's finally gotten it right. I'm not saying Gary Bettman's perfect. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here telling that he's an angel or he's perfect or anything. Look, Roger Goodell, I'll tell you right now, he's not to know that, but you know what? The NFL's still king. You could talk about the NFL 24/7, 365.
Right.
Like we do on these shows. I mean, do we ever go an episode of Game On or Empty the Bench or anything without talking about the NFL?
There's really no off
very,
season.
Very rare.
There's no, let's be fair. And
you've got the draft next week, you've got the schedule release to workouts and stuff. And before you know it, you're talking about teams in camp, and then it's the preseason. We're 3.5 months away from Jets Browns at in Canton.
Yeah. Hey, I might be going to Canton soon. I'm going to check out the Guardians and the Reds.
Oh, sweet, awesome.
So I'm working on that trip.
Yeah, but this is the thing, though. I mean, with all the problems that the NBA has had between this and even on the court, the whole load management thing, the fact that I think we're going to transition to this too, the fact about the so-called in-season tournament.
Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah, I mean, you've got nice playoff games happening right now. It's bad, and they can't handle domestic violence on top of everything else. I mean, this at the bare minimum, we should have been talking at least half a season. No retroactiveness.
I mean, I don't know why the NBA thinks that they're MLB pitchers who get hurt and need to go on the IL retroactive to a certain date.
I mean,
but
how do you retroactive a suspension?
You can't. And the NBA, you know what the NBA is? I just threw a dart against the wall. Like that's what they are. Like they literally just say, all right, I'm going to throw a dart and I'm going to say, all right, 10-game suspension, 20 retroactive. That works. That won't be a problem.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, though, you won't have all those fans yelling and screaming behind you as you throw that dart.
Yeah, really. Or it's like, or
the microphone.
You know what? It reminds me of the Wii bowling, like where if you don't do it right, like the ball would go behind you.
Oh wow!
Like,
oh man!
I know. I just went very retro over there.
15-year flashback on that.
But like that's what the NBA and Adam Silver are with suspensions. Like every time when you throw the ball back, like that's what they are right now. Like
that's absolutely right.
But it is what it is. We'll get to one more incident here before we talk about the unfortunate in-season tournament. But you guys touched on this last week.
Oh man!
So the NBA fines the Mavericks $750,000 for violating the league resting policy. They might as well just call it tanking.
Just say the T word. It's tanking. All right. Just like there's no such thing as load management. There's load management, and then there's tanking. That is in the NBA's should be in the NBA's vocabulary.
They should call it either the load management policy or the tanking policy. That's really what they should be calling.
Come on. League
it's
resting policy.
Resting policy. What is this? I mean, this is not vacation we're talking about here. Oh wait, I went to take a rest. I went to Vegas to go gamble, and I'm back. Like,
I mean, come on. How is that? And Nick, I know you weren't here last week, but how do you sit 4 to 5 players, and then your best star, your best player on the team, you tell him to only play one quarter?
Well, and then I heard what Tom said, that it was Slovenian national night.
Heritage night or something like that. Yeah. And
first of all, I don't think, as I know, like teams do all these promotions and stuff. To be honest, I don't know if the team really cared about Slovenian national night.
No, they don't.
To be honest, I mean, maybe. Oh God, why am I forgetting his name? Who are we talking about last week?
Luka Doncic.
Thank you. I don't know why that name went out of my head. Luka. Maybe Luka cares, but I don't know. But for Mark Cuban, and yes, anyone who says this isn't a Mark Cuban decision, you are delusional.
And I'll tell you who's going to take the brunt of it, unfortunately, and may not survive this is Jason Kidd. And I feel bad for him because the way he had to answer those questions, and I mean, you could tell, he's trying to say all the right things, but you knew that this was coming from the top, but he was going to take the fall for this.
You know what?
Now,
you know what?
And I
just want to respond to that one thing you said, which is, and I said this to Tom a little while back when we first started hearing about this thing, and that Jason Kidd basically threw the management under the bus. Good for Jason Kidd for throwing the management under the bus. They deserve to be thrown under the bus. They freaking tanked out of the playoffs.
And Nick, think about this. Think about the karma that could come out of this with Dallas. So there's a few things. Number one, what if when Luka is a free agent, he leaves, you re-sign Kyrie Irving to try and keep Luka there.
I heard you say this. Yeah.
Luka says, I'm gone, and you're stuck with Kyrie, and the draft pick that you might get may not be a star.
Well,
I'll tell you right now, and one of the Athletic guys was on a show last week and brought this up, and I'll bring it up too. If I'm the Knicks and that's a high draft pick, I'm telling the league to go investigate the Mavericks.
You're right, and I listened back to what you said last week, where it's a top 10 protected pick, which means they could be a number one for all you know. And
Yeah.
first of all, I doubt it'll be a one because there are teams that are going to be weighted more percentage-wise in the lottery. But you never know. We've seen teams with the least percentage end up with a one overall.
And a number one that's been hyped the most of any player in the last 20 years.
Right. And they also have the French player, which I always forget his name.
That's the one. Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, isn't he on the team now, or is that the one they're talking about for the number one overall?
That's the one we're talking about going as the number one overall pick.
Oh. But they also have someone on their roster, I can't remember, it was a foreign player that they picked up that had a lot of hype.
Who
on the Mavericks. Yeah.
Well, I don't recall, but
I can't remember. But my point is they need to be investigated. I agree. They need to be investigated. Should they file a complaint with the league over that draft pick? Yes. Should they? Yes. Are they going to win it? 0% chance they're going to win it. There's a zero. When I say zero, it's a 0% chance they're going to win that appeal.
I mean, but here's the other thing too. This isn't the first time this has happened with Dallas. I mean, this happened 5 years ago.
I'm aware, but what do they keep doing? Which is stupid. They keep finding Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban could care less about money.
Exactly.
You think he cares about $750,000, which he just got fined?
Yeah, Hank, it's not all about the money in this situation.
It's not. It's not all about the money. You want to hit him? People say, "Oh, well, hit him in the wallet." You think Mark Cuban
He's
cares?
Gonna laugh at you.
You know what? I said this to Hank when I was talking to him off screen. I said, Mark Cuban will take $750,000 and do you know what with it?
Shove it. Exactly. Yep.
No. I mean, wipe an area that we don't talk about very often.
Yep.
He doesn't care about $750,000. He probably makes that in a month.
Yeah.
This fine is ridiculous. It's silly.
And also, the NBA is going to do anything. If this is an NBA investigation, nothing's going to come of it.
I laugh every time. Well, the NBA is reportedly investigating. When we hear this on ESPN or wherever, the NBA is reportedly investigating a situation with John Morant. The NBA is reportedly investigating a situation with Ime Udoka. No, you're not.
No, you're not. Take it to the Supreme Court, then maybe we'll have something come out of it.
I'm going to say what I usually say again. The NBA stands for what?
Oh, I know what you say, but I'm going to let you say it.
The NBA stands for nothing but assholes.
Yep.
Because it's true. Adam Silver doesn't know how to run this league. Mike Bass, who that name we hear constantly all the time as what?
Oh God, Mike Bass.
as the VP of media who comes out with. I mean, we had an incident last month with the whole laser pointer situation between the Pacers and I forgot which other team it was, but
oh yeah.
I think that was with the Grizzlies with Morant, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, also, they pointed a laser pointer at me. We didn't find anything. Yep, that's about right.
Yeah. By the way, I knew what it stood for, but it sounded better if Nick said it, so that's why I let him do it.
But is it wrong though? I mean, like.
The way
Adam Silver can't run the league.
Half hour. Yeah, look at everything that's happened in the last half hour.
And we haven't even gotten to the one that's going to irritate me yet.
Oh.
I mean, but this fine is ridiculous. Mark Cuban could pull his wallet out and take $750,000 out of it.
Maybe the Mavericks will be punished when they re-sign Kyrie Irving, and then they don't keep, and then Doncic leaves, and they're stuck with that head case for several more years.
He wants Kyrie Irving. He's already come out and said, "I'm going to resign him."
Well, good. It couldn't happen to a better organization than they can have him.
I mean,
they could suffer because of it. That'll be their punishment.
And by the way, anyone who says that I'm not a Net fan, like all the fans are going to, or people who write on this video or podcast, and they comment, they say, "Fair weather Net fan." No. Go back and listen to all the shows that I covered on Kyrie Irving when his investigation came out.
There's been plenty. Yep.
We've been all over this. Our shows have been all over these situations that Adam Silver has been a part of.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know who you can get. Who would run this league? I mean, what did I tell you about all these guys who are commissioners of the league? They're lawyers.
Yeah.
You don't look at them for personality.
No.
Roger Goodell, no personality. Adam Silver, no personality. Rob Manfred, no personality.
Oh, God, no.
I mean, Gary Bettman, I don't know if he has a personality. I don't know.
Somewhat.
But basically, every commissioner, there's no personality up there in that office. So, I don't know. All right, let's move on to the in-season tournament prizes.
Oh, nice. There's actually more great stuff in the NBA. So if we even had enough, now let's go to the on-the-court not craziness.
Now, I got to find this number because I had them. So, it was revealed the format, and I want to pull the format up. I don't know. Did you see this or no?
And this was just broke recently, so I haven't even had a chance to really dig deep into this. I mean, first off, in-season tournament, I've never been in when they've been talking about this. I've never been in a fan of. I'm not even a fan of the play-in tournament. Well, actually, not even really. I mean, you could say it's a single elimination, but in some ways, it's not. In some ways, it's a double elimination tournament, so it's really not.
No, they're trying to be soccer. That's what they're trying to do right now. Listen, I've been trying to explain this to Johnny before. I'm going to explain it to everybody because this makes no sense to me. So, this is from Jankos Benbach, if I pronounce his name correct. I'm sorry if I butchered that name. 5 teams apiece. I thought when they said in-season tournament, like maybe it was based on like rankings for a certain amount of teams. They're talking about 30 teams.
So that already is bad. But wait, there's more.
There's more. Oh, trust me, there's a lot more. The pools will be composed of teams from the same conference, but that does not mean they will be based on divisions. On designated days during the first 6 weeks of the season, teams will play 4 group games. That means they will play each team in their pool once, with 2 games coming at home and 2 coming on the road. This is already getting complicated. We're not even.
I mean, we spoke about this before we started the show today, but every detail that you gave me about this, it got worse and worse.
All right, so let's recap. They're going to have 5 pools of 6. They each have to play 2 at home, 2 on the road. Then the winner of each of the 6 pools will advance to the single elimination stage. Now we think we're soccer.
Oh my gosh.
Along with 2 wildcard teams. Now we're baseball.
And football.
The exact method of this is great. The exact method of determining the wildcard teams has not been specified yet.
Because they don't know.
Wait a minute. Let me go grab that dart.
Yeah, throw the dart. Exactly. What they're doing is trying to throw a wad of, like a spitball and seeing if it will stick to the wall.
Right.
A piece of gum and seeing it will stick to the wall.
Now, the semifinals and the finals of the tournament will be held at a neutral site.
So what's the point of that? You'd be losing money that way.
I don't know. The players on the winning tournament team would receive $500,000 each.
Which is chump change.
I mean, I don't know who I was talking to about it. I think I was talking to Tom about it when we were prepping both shows, that the 11th player on the roster might appreciate it, but that's it.
Yeah.
Like the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th players might appreciate it because they're probably making what? A few million, maybe, if they're lucky.
Or the league minimum.
So maybe 500,000 to them would be a lot of money, maybe.
Probably, yes.
But to the guys who are 1, 2, 3, and 4, who are making what, 30, maybe?
Yeah, or max money, yeah.
So this is where it got really funky. Now listen to this, and everybody listen to this. The NBA schedule released in the offseason will include only 80 games apiece for each team. The teams that do not advance to the knockout stage, now this is where I lost it. If they don't advance to the knockout stage, we'll have to play 2 more games added to their schedule. Is that crazy?
Nick, how does any of this make sense?
Wait. The teams that reach the tournament finals will play 83 total games.
So everybody should be playing the same amount of games per season. I mean, come on. Because that one extra game might be their win percentage might cost them a playoff spot. There's literally nothing good to this. And I'll tell you right now, and I'm going to bring this term up again. You know what you're going to see more of in the NBA if this happens?
Load management.
Right. You're not going to have guys wanting to play during the season because they rather play this tournament. It's more valuable to them. Literally. Actually, literally more valuable in terms of money and stuff.
But this is crazy. Like, so some of the idea of the in-season tournament is still relatively new by American standards. The WNBA has the Commissioner's Cup, obviously. That's actually their version of an in-season tournament.
But see, that works, though, because you don't have as many teams and you don't have as long of a season. See, the WNBA actually does it right. And, they're growing in popularity. Whether another thing, you want to talk about Kathy Engelbart, but the WNBA is actually growing in popularity. And I think the NBAs have major problems. This, to me, is
you know what?
Trying to maybe make the league more relevant during the season. Here's the next question. I don't know if it's mentioned in the article. When are we playing this?
From what I understand, it's going to be December around Christmas.
Oh, so you can't. No, you can't do that. See, you cannot do this in-season tournament during football season or during the holidays.
Oh, you're going to get screwed. Absolutely,
that is a terrible idea.
And by the way,
when you get to February, then you have the All-Star break.
There's no good time to play this. There's no good time to play this.
I feel like we're talking about the World Baseball Classic.
Oh God! Don't even
now this is funny because this is talking about during the season versus the World Baseball Classic, which is before the year. Nick, there's nothing good that's coming that came out of what you said. There's going to be more load management, which is already a major issue in the NBA, which they did not resolve with the new CBA. To me, this is a disaster written all over it.
I mean, it's interesting what they say here. The problem that the league has yet to address is how to get teams to take the tournament seriously. While the possibility of $500,000, which is what I said, depending on who you are, will matter to players, there's no reason at present for teams to care about pool play games in the tournament more than any other regular season game. They're right.
And you know what the crazy thing is? NBA Christmas Day is one of the best days on their calendar all season.
Well, it's supposed to lead up into that, they're saying.
Yeah, but
which is even worse.
No, that's even worse because December you have college football playoff bowl games happening, and usually when you get to about the holidays, that's when they actually start becoming good.
But now you're going to add another tournament to it. I mean,
that doesn't work. Now this tournament could have worked if you actually did shorten the regular season, which they should have. The regular season should be shortened to 72 games. I know they're never going to do that. But the regular season should have been cut down to begin with.
Actually, if you really want to play against season, you really should shorten the season down to 60.
It makes sense. Now, what you could,
here's the problem. Here's a problem that you have. Okay, this is the NBA being greedy. That's what this is. The NBA is being greedy.
I can't even use a Hank thing and say it's all about the money because then why are we playing the championship games in neutral sites then?
I don't know. I mean, maybe because in their mind, if we play in LA or we play in New York, it's an advantage. I don't know. But wouldn't you want the games to be seen more?
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, New York's a great basketball town, but they're not going to care about a tournament that has nothing to do with their teams. Big East tournament's different.
I was just about to say, how is that any different than a Big East tournament? Or it's not.
But the Big East tournament will draw though.
No, but I'm saying like they already see one of those. Why do you need another one of those? Like,
yeah. I mean, they also did have for a while. They did have the NIT before they got rid of that. But
I'm just saying, my point is, you don't need another one. How many games do you need? You don't need. You're doing it. You're pulling an NFL right now. You're adding more games instead of caring about what you have.
It's not good. It's not a good look. There's no other sport would do something like this.
You know what? The only thing I'm surprised that the NBA hasn't done, which would have made this worse, is say, let's go play overseas and include all the countries involved in it. Oops, did I just say that out loud? Great. Now the NBA is going to do that.
Preseason, yeah.
Great. You could thank me, Adam Silver. I just gave you the idea.
That almost makes more sense, though. And actually, they do that in the very early days of the preseason. They play teams that cross
right.
And like for the very first preseason game. In fact, I think there was one that actually did upset an NBA team in the preseason, but that's like the first or second preseason game.
Didn't they play like Abu Dhabi or something?
Yeah.
I'm like, who cares? It's the preseason. I mean, wasn't it at one point the Knicks for a few seasons played some games in O2 Arena in London?
Yeah, they played a regular season game in London.
What happened to London? That's easy. You want to go to London? Go to London. That's
London's
easy.
Not hard. It's from New York. It's like a 6-7 hour flight. That's not terrible.
I mean, I wouldn't be upset if you played a few games in London. That's fine. NBA is a global brand. They should be playing more outside the country.
Brand. You know what? I mean, you're talking about the number one overall pick from France, so absolutely.
I mean, they should go play a game in France. They should go play a game in China. They should go to Japan. They should go to Korea. The NBA can handle it. They should be going
that
globally.
Is a sport that should do. I don't know. It's they're in a bad spot here because this to me. I mean, I hope this is just all talk and not action because there's nothing good about this.
There's nothing good about this. By the way, as we enter the third hour of this show already,
my fault, my curse.
No, we had a lot to talk
Here
about.
Again,
no.
absolutely. And you're back. I know you wanted to get back in the groove, so
oh no,
I got to make up for lost.
I had a lot to get, but now it's time to get upset for another reason. Okay,
there's more.
So we got upset about the NFL. Well, you know what? We didn't get as upset about the NFL. We got upset about the NBA. Now it's time to get upset with baseball. Okay. So let's start with the money. As we like to say, it's all about the money. This time it's all about the money. Several teams are extending beer sales into the 8th inning. Sign of lost revenue due to pitch clock shortened games.
All right, guess what? This is Manfred's fault because here we go. And ready for this?
Yes.
I read this. The first thing I think about is forget money. What about safety?
Well, did you see the Phillies pitcher? I don't know who it was.
Yeah, it was. It was a very.
He tweeted about it, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to look it up.
They all blend in together. But I saw it was a Phillies pitcher who said that. And he's absolutely right.
Matt Strom.
That's right. That's who it was. Yeah, the lefty.
Matt Strom said that he disagreed with extending alcohol sales beyond the traditional 7th inning cutoff, citing the safety of fans. A pitcher is saying this. Sorry, I'm very fired up.
Oh. But you're right. But he's right, though. I mean, come on. If you're talking games that are going really quick. I mean, we already had a couple of games this season. This young season, we've already had a couple of baseball games that have finished in less than 2 hours.
We had an hour and 57-minute game.
Yeah, Angels Red Sox was an hour 57.
Twins complete game
was 158.
Right.
I mean, it's all sounds good, but there's no. Plus, you could still buy up to the 7th inning, but these guys are still drinking in the 8th and 9th.
Well, because they buy 4 beers or whatever they're allowed.
But you see, but like the safetiness of, I mean, again, we're talking about money. What about safety?
I don't know anymore. I mean, the pitch clock has been good for baseball. It will always be good for baseball because now games are moving at a quicker pace. Now, if you
look, it's inevitable, but we already are seeing problems with that too.
Well, here's the deal: in all professional sports, when you change rules, people will always find problems with new rules. But with the alcohol sales, this is bad. This can only lead to problems in a lot of ways. You're going to extend it to the 8th inning. Now, people are going to say, well, if you think about it, with the shortened pitch clock, the 8th inning time will seem like the 7th. That's a horrible excuse.
Oh.
That's in the words of Charles Barkley, that's terrible. I mean, we should be going the other way with the alcohol sales, not later.
Exactly. I mean, come on. This is awful. This is not even about money or anything. This is safety first.
But you know what's interesting? I heard Michael Kay, for most people not from New York, the Yankees announcer.
Yeah.
He told a story that his wife and his kids were there to see the game. They went to a concession stand. They stood on a line for 45 minutes and missed 4 innings.
So now we're starting to see maybe that the pitch clock is got some negatives to it too.
Is that crazy though? That now the pitch clock, now teams are concerned about their concessions.
You don't think about that, but all you were talking about was the pace of play. But from a money standpoint, how if there was going to be an effect to it, I didn't even think about it like that because honestly, I'll be honest, like I'm talking to you right now, and I wasn't thinking about the whole concession angle to the pitch clock.
I mean, not that this is the conversation you have every day. Think about for bathrooms, and I'm not talking about men because that's a whole different thing. Women, when they go to games, the line is like around the seats.
Yep.
Think about that. You might miss 4 innings just alone from waiting on the line to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely. I mean, we didn't think about this when the pitch clock was introduced, but that's definitely starting to become a factor as well.
It's crazy. Like when we put in I think this rule could actually be good, but now we find another problem with it.
Well, ask Cody Bellinger about that.
Well, we'll get to that in a second, but
yep.
But
the pitch clock was needed for baseball. Now everything else they did not need, but that was some. But I've seen it in the minor leagues, and it is effective. Now the minor leagues, of course, you're talking about 5,000 people. Like I go to the Pelican Stadium, 20 minutes from here. That's a ballpark ticket return.com field. 5,000 people at max.
You know what,
5,000,
though?
6,000 max.
You know what, though? They're using the minor leagues as test dummies, if you think about it.
That's fair, but some minor leagues are already doing robotic umpires. That's never going to transfer.
Right. Did you hear about the new thing they're testing, though, at minor league stadiums?
There was something else. Yeah. What's that?
So now they're testing 5-inning minimums for starting pitcher. And if you don't, you lose designated hitter spot.
Oh, I don't like that rule at all.
Is that crazy?
In the minor leagues, though, that's one thing, but you can't do that in the majors. Yankees, you know how many teams will be screwed this year? You see how many starting pitchers in the early going of the Major League Baseball season have not gone 5 innings?
And what happens if your pitcher gets hurt?
Well, yeah. I mean, come on. That's not going to work in the majors. I know in the minors they actually. It's funny that in the minors they don't usually go 5.
I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to stop all the bullpen changes, maybe.
But see, they've done that though. Right? They've done the 3-batter minimum, which is, by the way, I don't like either.
I don't like that either, to be honest.
I mean, look, if they want to mix and match, that's the risks you take with not having a deep bullpen.
Yeah, but I could understand in some aspects why that can be annoying. Like you have to bring 3 separate pitchers out to face 3 separate batters, and then they have to come in and warm up. Which they should have a rule though, like that can be allowed. But if you're coming in as a situational pitcher, like. You shouldn't need that much time to warm up.
Oh, but I mean, the thing with that too, even the 3-batter minimum, that the problem with that rule was it was only during an inning. If that pitcher got 1 out in the inning and the inning ended, they didn't have to come out for the next inning.
Right, because in technicality, it was the end of the inning, so they can't hold that against you.
So again, the logic might have been a good idea, but that was something that just made no sense. That's another bad change.
Right,
I think they were trying to do to speed up the game. Just were not realistic.
But now teams are bitching and moaning because they're losing sales. Like you can't win. How do you win? You can't fix this. How do you fix this?
Should have just let it be how it was.
Well, the games were too long. That was a fact. Well, they were. You can't have 3-hour and 15-minute games.
Part of the reason the games are too long is because there are starting pitchers who are going 4 or 5 innings and throwing 100 pitches.
That's a problem. You're right.
There was somebody, I think I was last Saturday, the Angels and the Red Sox up in Boston. There was a pitcher who went 4 innings and threw 100 pitches.
Well, that's just ridiculous. Because they don't know how to throw strikes. No one teaches pitchers how to be consistent anymore.
Well, they do, and the hitters are just fouling them off to oblivion.
I mean, I don't know. Can you put a rule in for like back when we used to play baseball back in the day, where if like 3 fouls and you're out? Like
no, that'd be a terrible rule too.
I'm just saying. Like I just remember back in the day, like if you like if you felt
a lot of it is not even the. You know what it is? Also, it's a lot of the problems with baseball, and I'm telling you, record, but a lot of the problems is just the way that the game is evolved to now, where everybody thinks that take the count full and then swing away. It's
right.
The Yankees were the one team that did that, and every team followed them. It seemed.
I don't know. I mean, I like the pitch clock after I was concerned about it because you're actually seeing more offense because people are doing less thinking in the box now.
But when it starts becoming a safety hazard, that's you can keep the pitch clock is fine, but this can't happen. You can't be extending the beer sales into the 8th inning.
I mean, well, like I said, their theory is, it's the time that the 8th. You can't do that.
You know what it is? Also, it could be ballparks that are not drawing because if you look at these stadiums, they're not drawing.
Right. Hank had said that too. Like he thinks it's probably because you really think the Yankees could give two shits whether it's the 7th or 8th inning? They don't care. There's so much money being generated in that stadium.
Sure, there's plenty of ways to make money outside of beer. But I'm just new ballparks.
But the Yankees are not losing money over that. Yankee Stadium, Citi Field, Dodger Stadium, Phillies, Cubs. They're not losing money. You were talking about teams like Pittsburgh or Cincinnati, teams that need to make money. That's the ones it's going to affect.
Oakland.
Oh, well, don't even get me started with Oakland.
Oakland's so bad that Gary, Keith, and Ron had to move from their
Well, that's because there was a rat opossum in there.
I mean, it's so bad there.
That was so hilarious.
But put them in Vegas and don't talk about expansion without moving them to Vegas first, please.
Yeah, really. I mean, by the way,
and I were talking about this last week that they were talking about putting a team in Salt Lake. That they were looking at Salt Lake City.
Oh, stop it!
That's terrible. By the way, there's no sports in Utah outside of the Jazz and the Utes.
Wait a minute. I haven't done it yet, but here it is.
It's about time, Rob.
I mean, like, the Oakland AAA team is drawing more than the Major League team.
Yep, that's right.
Really? That's all I gotta say. Your AAA team is outdoing you.
They actually were talking about. I was looking up at the screen here, and they were actually talking about a walkout day in I think June or July.
A reverse walkout. A reverse walkout. They're going to fill the stadium one day on purpose. That's good. You give them money. That's going to show them.
So we still have tremendous issues with the game a month in. And even when I tried to give Manfred the benefit of the doubt, because you know what? Tuesday night, you had Angels, Yankees at the stadium. You had Shohei, Judge, and Trout, the last three MVPs of the American League.
Right.
And first of all, MLB Network was the only broadcast, whatever not, that actually was promoting the heck out of it. So I love them. MLB Network's great, but the problem is the actual MLB itself is not promoting it. It took MLB Network to do it. And what ends up happening, it was the third most important game Tuesday night because you had the Knicks and the Rangers both in the playoffs at the same time.
Which is so funny. It's like just
so even when you try to do it, first of all, and again, your promotion of three of your better players in the sport, it took a network to promote it, not the actual league itself.
By the way, finish the point.
Change.
So I just looked up Oakland Athletics ticket prices for the Yankees. And the prices to sit all the way down at Yankee Stadium, by the way.
At Yankee Stadium.
Section 127. Those are good seats at Yankee Stadium. You're pretty much on the field almost at those seats. $118.
Wow, that's a bargain.
Think about that. At Yankee Stadium.
When are they playing there?
8th, 9th, and 10th of May. Is that nuts? I was on StubHub, and that's what I found.
All right, if you guys don't see me on Game On May 9th, 9th, and 10th, you'll know why.
But think about that. That's crazy.
More to fly up there.
I don't understand.
Hasn't changed folks. I'm sorry. I should give it some time, but baseball's still in a bad spot.
So
a ton of injuries.
I'm looking at Oakland's home games because now this will be the true test.
Well, so I was looking at one, I think, for the Cubs, and the most expensive ticket I saw there was still $370.
So I'm clicking on. This is crazy. Oh my God. So Seattle Mariners, probably one of the
rival.
Really good team, by the way. Now,
division rival
at Oakland, Section 1B.
1B.
Listen to this.
Okay, and when is this?
This is Seattle at Oakland.
What? No, but when? What date?
May 2nd.
It could still be cold in May. It's early in the season.
Okay, but just follow my logic here.
Carry on. I'm sorry.
So Seattle, which is a really good team, you want to see. Oh my God, why am I forgetting the guy's name all of a sudden?
You want to see Julio Rodriguez?
Thank you. That's it, Julio Rodriguez, and they got a pretty young star squad.
Yeah.
Section 1B, field box, $162.
Wow, more expensive.
No. That's right behind the dugouts.
And by the way, thank you, Rob Manfred, that Nick doesn't know about Julio Rodriguez either. Another great young player that he doesn't.
I do. I just the name slipped my head.
But see, you should know. But see, it wouldn't slip your head. You would know him if baseball promoted him more.
I happen to like the way he plays, by the way.
Exactly.
But Section 1B in Oakland, right behind home plate, $162 to see Seattle.
And maybe in May when they're still actually relevant in May.
But that's crazy.
It's bad, folks. I'm telling you.
I would purchase that $162 ticket right now if I could.
Mark the date down, 2027 or 2028. Nick, me, Tom, and Hank will all be on, and we'll be talking about a possible lockout again.
Oh, God. Didn't we just sign a collective bargaining agreement?
Yeah, in 5 years, but we still have major problems, and the World Baseball Classic is now more of a problem than it was before.
You know what? We should put a bookmark in this show right now. All right. Hello, future us from 2027, 2028. Yep. There's going to be a lockout, and we're going to break the news. Remember this moment.
Yeah, and we could be wrong because I said the NBA was going into lockout mode, and they proved me wrong, but they're also going to be bad.
But let me get to that last story you were talking about. So, Cody Bellinger used to be a Dodger, now with the Cubs. Suffers a batter violation of the MLB pitch clock during standing ovation at the LA Dodgers. Hello!
Yeah. I mean, it's so bad.
I mean, dare I say it with this? Sounding alarms, please.
Rob Manfred was hoping you were going to blare that in his ears box.
Oh no, he probably likes that sound. Since he's so used to putting out fires, he probably hears that sound a lot.
God. Yeah, I actually watched the highlight of this. I think it was it might have even been from Marquee Sports or
the Chicago Cubs network.
Yeah. Who they're all great, by the way. I mean, I follow them a lot. They're all fantastic.
I mean, you need to have something. Like tell the umpires, somebody, all right, hey, standing ovation, hold the pitch clock, please.
I mean, I guess the only thing they're going to tell you is they can't do this for every single person, because if this happens, that would be the only thing they're going to come with. I don't agree with it.
No, but I'm saying MLB is now heavily involved with the umpires. Say, you need to follow the rules at all costs.
Well, they're so desperate to speed up the game that yet all the things they talk about trying to speed up the game is just, I don't know.
I mean, they've called more balks than I've ever seen, ever. By the way,
and that's not even with Balk and Bob Davidson.
Oh God, he's been retired for quite a few years.
But he was the guy.
And him and who's the other one that just recently retired? That used to call. Who's the one that called the one that called the balk on Burley?
Oh, Joe West. Yeah,
twice.
Yes, and I actually remember that call. I could play in my head from Hawk Harrelson.
You know what's even crazy about that moment? Burley was just and just like with the glove.
Oh, he threw his glove down, not like frustrated. He just threw it down like this, and then Joe saw that and just threw him out. I remember that. But
It's
that's
like,
when baseball was fun, though.
but I'm saying like, well, yeah, that's a good point. You're right, but like, come on, man. And now they're calling balks like every other game now. Like, remember when a balk used to be like a surprise when you would see it from time to time?
Yeah.
Now it's like
because
all the time.
Well, again, that's part of the pitch clock because pitchers are not getting set
Right
and
away.
they're rushing it because technically when you're in the stretch, you have to come to a complete set before you throw, but they're worried about the pitch clock now.
Well, there was a few times where they're calling a fast pitch. Now you're not allowed to even do that anymore.
I see, but again, that's just the tricky this though. Like you know who's very tricky is Nestor Cortez because sometimes he does that slow wind up.
But the rule is as long as you're in the windup by 8, you're allowed to do it. That's the rule.
Yeah.
No one said it made sense.
A lot of these rules don't make sense.
Go ask Max Scherzer, who got ejected again.
Well, yeah, and if you haven't seen that, go check that out with the whole glove and everything. That was crazy.
Well, now they're saying he might have had sticky stuff on his glove.
Well, yeah, and there's the second time they were checking his glove, and that was fascinating. So that could be developing.
But you know what the problem is? The umpires have become the stars now, and that's a recipe for disaster.
And what school is that from? Angel Hernandez.
Oh God! Thank God he's not in the league anymore. He did retire, right?
I don't think so.
Is he still umpiring?
I think he's still there.
I haven't seen him.
You know what? Maybe he very quietly retired, and I didn't see it.
By the way, he made the challenge system what it is today. Remember in the Yankee Red Sox game, how many calls he got wrong in the playoff game?
Oh my gosh! Oh, talk about trying to speed up the game.
I mean, how many? And I love like he would be the one standing there with the headset next to the other umpire, just watching it up on the board.
See, it's twofold. It's technology. It's 21st century technology, but it's also the umpiring's gotten way worse. And all of this, you could really all translate all of this into one moment. Go back to one moment to why we have all the instant replay, why we have all the rule changes, why we have all the pitch clock stuff. And that was 2010, right around this time, actually, at Comerica Park in Detroit.
Well, you're talking about the perfect game with Colorado.
I'm talking about the perfect game that wasn't. That moment, that could be one of the most defining moments in baseball history as to why we are now with the rule changes, with the instant replay. And really, that could be instant replay in all sports, but especially in baseball.
I mean, Jim Joyce probably made the most egregious call of all time I've ever seen.
But you know what, though? To Jim Joyce's credit, post-game, he admitted he got the call wrong. And the very next day, you remember Galarraga got out there, and he was with Joyce, and Joyce was very emotional.
Right.
He knew, as he said, he kicked dirt on it.
Okay, but wait a minute. If he admitted to the call being wrong after the game, why didn't they change it?
Can't do it. After it's made, you can't do it.
They allow appeals. They appealed it too.
I think because it's a judgment call, you can't overturn a judgment call. That's the rule. I don't agree with it, but I think that's the rule.
But did they have replay yet or no?
No. That's the thing. That's what I was saying. That moment is what created instant replay.
I wonder if people would do that, if they would waste a challenge on like if that ever happened again on a call.
If that happens again, absolutely you're gonna throw a challenge thing out there.
That would be interesting to say the least. But I don't know. Good old Rob Manfred ruining sports or ruining baseball all over again.
It's like Adam Silver, hold my beer.
Wow. I haven't heard that one in a long time.
And there's Goodell, and then there's Goodell and Gary Bettman on Cloud 9 right now.
But
and we'll see plenty of Goodell on Thursday.
But I think that's enough for one show. We didn't break a record yet.
Oh, I was going to say, you have anything else? We have a few more minutes before we break the record.
No, I don't have anything else. But what did I want to say? Oh, make sure you follow us for the draft coverage. Again, just so everybody knows, no Empty the Bench episode officially next week. We will be doing the live Empty the Bench live stream special 2023 NFL Draft Thursday, April 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Two of us will be there. Tom will be there. There might be some other stragglers along the way joining us. We'll break down. We only do round one because no one cares after round one.
And some of us need to rest afterwards.
Some of us usually it takes like 4 hours. Let's be clear. We spend all 4 hours there from pick to pick.
We will be there. Yep. It's about a 3-hour night of sleep, so I'm looking forward to that.
I mean, the NFL draft is fun.
It's fun though. It's all
we're expecting to hopefully see some actual like NFL players moving some trades. That would be nice.
Well, there's still a lot of that's the fun thing. Going into next week, there's still a lot of uncertainty. So we won't know for sure until we may know more. We're planning to do Game On next week, and I'm planning to be back on Game On as well as on this live stream next week. So if we have any more information, we'll be back next week about that.
But but otherwise, make sure to like and subscribe. YouTube.com/ETB Network for the video side of things. For Empty the Bench, for Game On, for MMA Outsiders, for Fruity Cereal, for a bunch of other shows involved in the Empty the Bench network. ETBpodcast.com, some blogs up there. Hank did some blogs over some of the NHL playoff run stuff, some Knicks history stuff he did, more of the rainy day blog side of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about it. We're almost 2.5 hours in. Oi. Wow.
Once again, that's because of me.
But
the common denominator in that.
But where are we going to be by the time our two shows come back? We'll be after the NFL draft. NBA playoffs will kind of be towards the end almost by the time we come back. No?
Well, I'm planning to be back either Tuesday or Wednesday next week. Just keep your notifications locked on that because we might be pushing the show to Wednesday next week for Game On. But it'll still be the end Stanley Cup playoffs. It'll still be the NBA playoffs. Question's going to be: our Knicks, our Nets, our Rangers, where will they be by the time we're back on the air again?
You have the Devils, too.
And the Devils and the Islanders. Fun fact. I'll give you a Steel Hank fun fact before we get out of here. First time since 1994, the Knicks, the Nets, the Devils, the Rangers, and the Islanders all in the playoffs in the same year. Let's hope it's like 1994. Rangers win the Stanley Cup, Knicks in the finals. I'll take that right now.
I'm sure Dolan, this is a good problem for Dolan at Madison Square Garden right about now.
Absolutely. And he's staying far away. You don't hear his name a lot. So let's keep it like that.
I was asking Hank, I don't know if he had the answer. I'm assuming the Knicks have the super seed over schedule, right?
What do you mean? Like
because the conflicts, because they're both in the playoffs. So I'm assuming the Knicks get the more favorable time, no?
Yes and no. If you look at the schedule just real quick. So Game 3, Knicks Cavs on Friday at 8:30 Eastern. Game 3, Knicks Cavs Friday 8 Rangers Devils Saturday 8 p.m. Game 4, Knicks Cavs Sunday at 1 p.m. and Game 4 Rangers Devils at the Garden, I believe, is at 7.
Yeah, because the NBA is going to supersede the NHL every time, unfortunately.
8:30 p.m. on Friday. Oof.
But that's not bad. That's going into the weekend at least. That kind of makes sense. Right. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Enjoy the playoffs. A lot of New York actually in the playoffs for the first time in a while. Like I said, follow us on social media at ETB Sports for this show, at Game On ETB for that show, at ETB Network Across for everything else. And yeah, that's about it. So for Johnny Montalbano, I'm Nick Morgasen. Hopefully all our shows will be back together next week. And that's it. So I'll just say good night, everybody.
Good night, friends. We'll see you during the draft.